Recording.
You're on.
I'd like to call this meeting in order. We'll start out with a moment
Recording.
of silence.
You're on.
I'd like to call this meeting in order. We'll start out with a moment of silence. Next, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Pledge allegiance to the flag, indivisible, United States of America, liberty and justice for all. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. We have somebody indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, is clerk's office on?
We have somebody.
Yes, we are.
All right, roll call. Yeah, is
Portman.
clerk's office on?
Here.
Charlie, yes, we are.
Okay.
All right, roll
Franek. Portman. Kufal.
Here.
Charlie. Stendor. Franek.
Here.
Rhodes. Here. Kufal.
Here.
Stendor. Joe Rose.
Here.
Rhodes. Berlin.
Here,
Corpola. Joe Rose.
here,
Mika. Berlin.
here,
Vitek. Corpola.
here, here,
Huber. Mika.
here, here,
Heninen. Vitek.
here, here,
Wiener. Huber.
here,
John Wiener.
here,
Wiener. Judy. Merdig. John Wiener. Negro. Schutte. Mackenzie. Merdig. Quebec.
Here.
Negro. Metzinger.
Here.
Mackenzie. Bill Metzinger. Quebec.
here,
Here.
Campbell. Metzinger. Cabasa. Bill Metzinger. Kinney.
here,
Campbell. We have 19 present, 2 absent. Kinney.
Next, we need
We have 19 present,
adopt
2
the agenda.
absent.
Next, we need a motion by Rich to adopt the agenda, seconded by Kathy. All those in favor, say aye. Motion by Rich,
Aye. Chair?
seconded by Kathy. Opposed? Motion carries, say aye.
Chair, when people make motions, could they do it louder because you can't hear it on
Opposed?
the recording?
Motion carries, thank you.
Dick is
Chair, when
basically
people
trying
make
to say
motions,
who
could they
does
do it
the,
louder because
he
you can't hear
reiterates,
it on the
he
recording?
recognizes a motion here. So Dick is basically
people are
trying
out
to say
the,
who does the, you haven't been here, but
he
reiterates, the board members recognizes a motion here. They're sitting in the outside part of the room, but the people are out, Dick will highlight who makes the motion for the board members are outside, they don't have microphones,
Okay,
they're sitting
thank
in the
you.
outside part of the room. So Dick
Okay.
will highlight who makes the motion for the record.
We
and
go
for the clerk.
to C on the
Okay,
agenda,
thank you.
approval of the November 10th, 2020. minutes. We go to C on the agenda, approval of the November 10th, 2020. Bill? Okay. Pepe? Pepe seconded it. Bill, all those in favor, say aye. Okay.
Aye.
Pepe?
This is
Anyone
Heather in the
seconded
clerk's
it?
office. Who made the motion?
All those in favor, say aye. Bill Metzinger?
Thank you. This is
Anyone-
Heather in the clerk's office. Who made the motion?
Bill Metzinger, number 2,
Thank you.
C2, Chief Deputy Appointment.
Okay, this is brought to you from the
Number 2,
PPLE
C2,
committee,
Chief
along with the
Deputy
sheriff and the
Appointment.
county administrator. We interviewed
this
candidates
is,
for
brought
the
to you
chief
from
deputy
the,
position.
PPLE
Yeah, it was in
committee,
turn
along
forwarded
with
to
the
the sheriff
executive
and the county
committee,
administrator.
and the committee,
We
the
interviewed
executive committee
candidates for the chief
affirmed
deputy
the
position.
selection by
Yeah,
the
it was in
PPLE
turn forwarded to the
selection
executive
committee,
committee, and we're
the
recommending
committee,
this
the
candidate
executive committee
to
affirmed
the county
the,
board
selection
selection
by
by
the
for the
PPLE
position of chief
selection
deputy
committee.
for recommending this candidate to, you'll see the ordinance that establishes this procedure for the position of chief deputy enacting how the process went. You'll see the ordinance that establishes this procedure from review and county board approval. With that, I'll how the process appoint Brian Zupke from the PPL to the position of chief deputy, executive review and county board
This is Laura Negro.
With that, I'll seek a
Can we
motion
get a
to
motion?
appoint Brian Zupke to the position of chief deputy. And that was
This is
first
Laura
by
Negro.
Laura Negro.
Can make that motion?
I'll second that
Ron
motion.
Central,
Elizabeth
second.
Brown.
And that was a first by Laura Negro.
All right, who was-
I'll second that
Ron
motion.
Central,
who was the
Elizabeth Brown.
appointee?
Brian Zupke.
Okay.
Okay. Or Zupke?
All right, who was the appointee?
What?
Who was the appointee?
It's on the board there, Z-U-P-K-E. Or Zupke? It's on the board there, Z-U-P-K-E.
We need a motion.
We got a
I
motion.
made the motion. Was that Liz that made the second?
Yeah, we got a motion and a second.
We need a motion.
Okay, because I just wanted to
We got a
clarify
motion.
that motion, the vote for Brian was
second?
unanimous and
Yeah, we got
the
a motion and
executive
a
committee
second.
affirmed that
Okay,
Brian
because
was.
I just wanted to clarify that
he
the
is
vote for
a
Brian was
very
unanimous
together
and
and
dedicated to
the
the
executive
community
committee affirmed
person
that
that
Brian
has
was
dedicated his life so far to our community.
He is
through
a
the
very
sheriff's
together
office
and dedicated to the
service
community
So
person that has
I would hope
dedicated
this would
his
be an
life so
easy
far
pass.
to our community through the sheriff's office and his service to the community. So
All
I
right,
would
we
hope
have a
this would be
motion
an
and a
easy
second
pass.
To approve the appointment for chief deputy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, we have a
Anyone
motion and a
opposed, say
second
no.
to approve the appointment for chief deputy. All those in
Motion
favor
carries,
say
thank
aye.
you.
Aye.
This is
Aye.
Heather in the clerk's office. We
Anyone
seem
opposed,
to
say
have
no.
skipped past the public comment area.
Motion carries, thank you.
This is Heather in the clerk's office. We seem to have skipped
That is correct.
past the public comment area.
So why don't we go back to public comments? Let's go back to That is public correct. comments. We skipped over public, after we adopted the agenda, we skipped public comments. So why don't we go back to public comments? Let's go back to public comments. We skipped over public, after we
not on the
adopted the
agenda.
agenda, we skipped public comments.
So
There's
we
an
should go to
amended
public
agenda.
comments.
Heather sent it out and we posted it online. Heather forgot to put
it's
it
not on
on
the
when she
agenda.
did the packet. And Heather,
There's
didn't
an
notice
amended
that until
agenda.
somebody
Heather
made
sent
that,
it out and we
pointed it
posted
out
it
to her
online
yesterday.
at
Heather
about
forgot to put
4
it
o'clock.
on when she did the packet. And
Yeah,
Heather
so
didn't
we
notice that
basically,
until somebody
amended
made
the
that,
agenda and just
pointed
added
it
it
out
to
to
her
her
yesterday
yesterday
at
at
about
about 4 o'clock. What we've had on every other county board member, and county
so we
board meeting.
basically
And
amended the
so
agenda and
we
just
put
added
it
it
back
back
on
on
as
as
we
we
would
would
any other county board meeting.
what
What we've had on every other county board member.
All right,
county
we'll go
board
back to
meeting.
public comment.
And
Do we have any
so
public
we
that
just
want to
put it
comment?
back on as we would any other county board meeting.
Yes, Kath. All right, we'll go back to public comment.
To
Do we have any
approve the
public that want to
amended
comment?
or agenda, someone should have said, there
Yes,
is an
Kath.
amended agenda, please add this to your. When we came to
packet.
approve the
We didn't
amended
know that,
or
so
agenda,
next time can
someone
they
should have said,
amend the
there is
agenda
an
before
amended
the meeting?
agenda, please
Thank you.
add this to your packet.
Yeah, yeah,
We didn't
you're
know
correct.
that,
We should have
so next
pointed
time
it
can
out
they
to you. I do
amend
have it
the agenda
online for
before
everybody
the
watching.
meeting?
And I have it up
Thank
here for everybody looking at the board, but
Yeah,
I
that,
apologize
yeah,
for not pointing
you're
that
correct.
out
We
to
should
the
have,
board that,
pointed it out to you.
We made
I do
a,
have it online for
oversight
everybody
on
watching
that
and
and
have
have
it
it
up here
published
for
for
everybody
that
looking at
last
the
board, but I apologize for not pointing that out to the board that, we made.
Do we have any public comments?
Oversight on that in the publishing of that last week.
I see we have a couple of people on the phone. Do we have any public comments? Do we have any public comments? See, we have a couple of people on the phone.
I'd like to make a public comment. Can you hear me?
Do we have any public
Yes, we
comments?
can.
My name is
I'd
Sheila
like to make a
Mitchell,
public comment.
and I want to thank you for the chance. I'll be very
you hear me?
brief. I'm
Yes, we
basically
can.
calling in just
My
to
name is
state
Sheila
that I'm
Mitchell,
hoping that you will give,
and I
want to thank you for the
some
chance. I'll be very
support to
brief.
the Fair Maps
I'm
referendum for
basically
the April
calling in
6th,
just to state
2021
that I'm hoping
election.
that you will give
This
this basically
support
is a
to the
way
Fair Maps
to
referendum for the
rid
April 6th,
us of
2021
gerrymandering, which is
election.
basically a process of cheating
this-
by either
This
party
basically
that
is a
happens to
way
be in power. rid
has
us
bipartisan
of
support,
gerrymandering, which
and,
is basically a
we
process
the
of
people
cheating
always
by
end up
either
being the losers
party that happens to be
when
in power.
gerrymandering
It has
happens,
bipartisan
because
support,
whoever
and
is our
officials
we the people
basically
always
don't
end
have
up
to
being the
listen to us,
losers
no matter which party
when
is
gerrymandering
in power.
happens.
So
Because
I'm
whoever
just stating
our
that
officials
this was
basically
done
don't
as a
have to listen
resolution
to
in
us, no matter which
2017. It
party
did pass.
is
This
in
is
power. So
just requesting
I'm
them to
just
go to a
stating
referendum.
that
This was done as a
they did do
resolution
this in
in
Bayfield
2017.
County.
It did pass.
It was
Just
not a
requesting
contentious
it to go to a
ordeal at
referendum.
all. So I'm hoping that we can
They did do
the
this
same
in
thing in
Bayfield
Ashland
County. It did
So,
pass.
thank you. It was not a contentious ordeal.
Are there
at
any more
all.
public
So
comments?
I'm hoping that we can do the same thing in Ashland County. So, thank you.
Ginger had her
Are there
hand
any more
up
public
too.
comments?
What was that?
Go ahead, Ginger.
Ginger
is
had
Jan
her
Penn.
hand up too. Yeah, Ginger had her hand up, so
What was
she's
that?
gonna need to
Go ahead,
unmute.
Ginger.
There we go.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ginger
Yes,
had
go
her
ahead.
hand up, so
Okay. Thank
You're
you
working
she's
on
gonna
it.
need to
allowing
unmute.
me to speak
There we go.
today about the referendum Can you on hear fair me? maps as well as
Yes,
Sheila.
go ahead.
I am Ginger Quay, a member Thank you of the for nonpartisan allowing me to Ashland speak Bayfield today about County the referendum League of on Women fair Voters maps as and well of as the Sheila. league's I Ashland am County Ginger Voting Quay, a member of Services the nonpartisan subcommittee that Ashland submitted the Bayfield Fair County Maps League of Women Referendum Voters resolution to and you. of the league's Ashland Attending County this Voting meeting are other Services members. You've heard subcommittee from Sheila that of submitted the the Fair committee Maps who are referendum prepared to speak to resolution the to importance you. of the referendum. Attending But this in meeting deference are to other your members time and and your you've heard full from agenda, Sheila I will of the speak to the subcommittee who are Wisconsin prepared to speak gerrymandering to the issue importance of as the it referendum. impacts the But in integrity and the deference to your fairness of time the and your full election agenda, system. I will speak to the Wisconsin gerrymandering by either issue party as it rigs impacts the elections. integrity and the fairness In of that the situation, election system. More citizens become cynical and Gerrymandering by apathetic, either party, losing faith rigs in the democratic elections. system of government. In that situation, dropping more out, citizens become thinking their cynical vote doesn't and count. apathetic. Losing Wisconsin faith in the deserves democratic fair system of voting governance. district maps. Dropping Just out, to thinking their and vote preserve doesn't the count. integrity of our election Wisconsin system deserves by fair making voting each district vote maps. count. Just to strengthen Your and positive vote preserve the today integrity will of allow our a fair election maps system referendum to by be making placed on the each April vote 5th count spring election ballot. Your positive vote The today referendum will allow gives a fair Ashland maps County referendum voters to be the placed on the opportunity April to 5th speak to the spring election legislators ballot with one voice. The referendum gives Requesting a Ashland County process for voters drawing fair the opportunity voting to speak to the maps. legislators and thank you with for your one time and voice. attention. Requesting a process
Thank you.
for drawing fair.
Any more
voting
public comments?
district maps. And thank you for your time and attention.
May I ask who has the last four digits
you.
of 1164?
Any more public comments?
May I
And I
ask
see
who
Janice
has the last four
has raised
digits
her
of
hand on the Zoom link.
1164?
Janice, if you want to unmute yourself. And
The
Janice
last
has
digit,
raised her
very
hand
much.
on the Zoom link. Janice, if you want to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry.
The
Yes,
last
thank
Janice.
digit.
you very much. Okay. Yes, this is Jan Penn from Down in High Ridge. Marty
Go ahead,
Vitek
Janice.
is my representative supervisor.
Okay.
Yes, this is
I'm
Jan Penn from Down in High Ridge.
Marty
Having
Vitek
worked
is my
initially in Ashland County as public supervisor and spending the rest of my
I'm
career
speaking
as a
from a
nurse and
background
nurse
of
practitioner,
having worked
initially in
working
Ashland
with
County
folks
as public
through
health,
health
and
problems, but
spending
many
the
of
rest
those
of my
health problems
career
as
as
a nurse and nurse practitioner,
social basis,
working with folks through
and
health problems,
I,
but many of those health problems
want to
ask
add
the county board to consider
social
on
basis,
item 11 regarding
and
exceeding
I,
levy limits to
want to
put that
ask
forward
the county
to
board
the consider
citizens
on
of
item
Ashland
11
County.
regarding exceeding levy limits.
We're
to,
at a point in
put
time
that forward
with
to
COVID,
with the economic
citizens
impacts
of
of
Ashland
COVID in our county.
And
we're
the
at a
aging
point in
population in our
time
county
with COVID,
cutting
the economic
cutting
impacts of COVID
services
in our
that
county,
would
and the aging
both
population
the,
in our county that
cutting
social
needs
cutting
of
services
our families
that would
and
support
also
both
the economic
recovery,
broad
as example
needs
with our
of
roads
our
and
families,
infrastructure,
makes
and also
no
the
sense,
economic
and that
recovery
Well, this is a
as
challenge
example
with
with our
limited
roads and
incomes and poverty
infrastructure
that exists in
makes
Ashland County.
makes no sense.
47% of our population
well,
being
this is
at
a
least
challenge with
limited
asset
incomes and
limited,
poverty that
meaning they
exists in
are
Ashland
struggling
County.
from day to day.
47%
It's
of
gonna
our
be a challenge,
population
but at the
being
same
least,
time, cutting those services
asset
will
limited,
only make
meaning they
any
are
kind of
struggling from day to
recovery
day
or growth
it's
in
going to be a
Ashland
challenge,
County,
but at the same time, cutting those
and,
services
work
will
toward
only make
direction of
any
the
kind of
healthy
recovery
community
or
as a
growth in
whole in
Ashland
our
County
county very difficult.
and
Also on point
toward
11,
direction
our
of
a
a healthy
with
community
road agreement with
as a
Enbridge,
whole
I
in
have
our
not,
county, very
I,
difficult.
this is the first I saw
Also
this
on
on
point
the agenda,
11,
but I just
our
want to say,
10
with road
the,
agreement with Enbridge, I have
expense
not,
of roads in our
this is the
county.
first I saw
would
this
just hope
on
that
the
whatever
agenda, but I
agreement,
just want to say,
is discussed,
there's
the,
consideration to
expense
make
of roads
them
in our
pay,
county. I would just hope
justly
that whatever
to
agreement
maintain
is
roads.
discussed,
Um,
there is consideration
as
to make
their
equipment
them
and
pay,
operations
justly
are to
going to put a heavy
maintain
toll
roads
on those roads.
Thank you very much. As their equipment and operations are.
Is there any more public comment? Anyone else want to comment?
On those roads. Thank you very much.
Dick, this is Lori. I would like to ask who
Is there any more public
has
comment?
phone
Anyone else
number
want to
ending
comment?
at 1164. Dick, this is Lori. I would like to ask who has phone number ending at 1164. 292-1164.
Good morning. This is Jane Mathias with the Ashland County Aging Unit.
292-1164. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Jane Mathias with the Ashland County Aging Unit.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment? Last call. Anyone else wish to comment? Anyone online? All right, we'll close the public comment period. Last call. Anyone want to comment? Anyone online? C3 on the agenda. All right, we'll close the public comment period. County Board of Supervisors Handbook. I need a motion.
This is
C3 on
Ortman.
the
I'll move to
agenda.
approve.
Approval of the County Board of Supervisors Handbook. We have a second. I need a motion. Pepe seconded it.
This is Ortman. I'll move to approve.
Who seconded it, Dick?
Pepe. And do we have a second?
I would like to
Pepe
discuss
seconded
it a
it.
little bit if you don't mind, Richard.
Who seconded it, Dick?
Pepe.
Okay.
I would like to discuss it a little bit if you don't
He
mind.
just- Charlie wanted
Richard.
to discuss. Charlie wanted to discuss the handbook.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Like he just,
For
Charlie wanted to
introducing,
discuss. Charlie wanted to
agenda
discuss the
items,
handbook.
I like how it
Okay, go ahead.
comes from committee, but I think we should establish a agenda items. I like how this one and how it comes from committee, but I think we should establish directions. I think whoever wants to put an agenda item, if we decide on at the committee level, they should have meeting minutes of this. They should be able to do it if they have themselves. I think whoever wants to put an agenda item, an initial motion at the committee level, they should have. And then whatever committee is able to do it if they have themselves and one other person. And that would be the requirement. An initial motion on that committee if it was. And then whatever committee is appropriate, those two board members could go there. And that would be the requirement for getting it on that committee if it was the appropriate committee. And that's all I would like to have the
Any more
body
comments?
process if they would. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the table to approve the. Any more comments? Supervisors Handbook. All those in favor say aye.
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 We have a motion and a second on the table to approve. Opposed, say no. Board of Supervisors Handbook. All those in favor say aye.
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 County Fair Association report. Opposed, say no.
So
Motion
this
carries.
item
Thank you.
basically was asked to be put on the agenda by
Ashland County Fair
Supervisor
Association
Judy,
report.
and she basically gave this
So
information.
this
This item
here
basically was asked to be put on the
financial
agenda
report
by
for the fair.
Supervisor.
I
Judy,
will add
that
the
the
Finance
Finance Committee gave this
is
information
working
here
on
a process
concerning the
for
financial report for the
outside
fair.
entities.
I
which
will
would
add
involve
that
outside
the
entities
Finance Committee
going through a checklist,
is
working on
of
a
items
process
such as
for all
financial
entities,
board members,
which would involve outside
salaries,
entities going through a
compensation,
checklist, bylaws, all
of
the different
items
things
such
for
as
the board to make
financial
evaluations
board members,
on the cost,
salaries,
and reward
compensation,
benefits of
bylaws,
taxpayer
all the
dollars
different things
to
for
outside
the board
entities.
to make,
And that will be in place for the budget
evaluations
cycle
on
going
the
into
cost
2022.
and reward
And with
benefits
that,
of giving
go
taxpayer
ahead,
dollars
to outside entities. And that will be in place for the budget cycle going into
I'm Kathy
2022.
Schutte, and I'm the
And
county
with
board
that,
reps of the county
go ahead,
fair.
Kathy.
And with me is, she'll introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Doreen Hannanen. I'm the
I'm
treasurer
Kathy
for the
Schutte, and I'm
Ashland
the
County
county
Fair
board reps of the
Association.
county fair. And with
Hello,
me
I'm
is,
Fred Martins,
she'll
and I'm the
introduce herself.
president of
Hi,
the
I'm
Ashland
Doreen
County Fair
Hannanen. I'm the
Association.
treasurer for the Ashland
So
County Fair
just a little
Association.
heads up, so the county fair
Hello,
has
I'm
been in
Fred
Ashland
Martins, and I'm
County
the
for
president
around
of the Ashland County Fair
150 years.
Association.
Long before any of us
Just a
ever
little
got here.
heads up, so the county
It,
fair has been
it
in
began
Ashland
in the
County
city
for
of
around
Ashland by the
150
cemetery on the
years.
west end of
Long
Ashland.
before any of us
It moved
ever
down
got
to
here.
Glidden, and
It,
then from there it
it
went to
began in
Marengo,
the
where it
city
has
of
been
Ashland by the
since that time.
cemetery on the west end of Ashland.
We are
It
a
moved down to
volunteer
Glidden,
group that
and
puts
then
together
from
the
there it
county
went to
fair,
Marengo, where it
and
has
we
been
wanted to come to
since
the
that
board
time.
to explain to you the finances.
We
for the county
are
fair,
a
and if you have
volunteer
any
group
questions,
that puts
we
together
will
the county
be very
fair,
helpful to try to
and we
answer
wanted
your
to come to the
questions.
board to explain
Green's
to you
gonna
the
do the
finances
year-end
of the county
report,
fair, and if you have any questions,
And if anybody
we will
didn't get a
be
copy
very
of this,
helpful
I
to
can
try to
hand it
answer your questions.
And those copies
Green's
did
gonna
not
do the
print
year-end
off some of
report,
the bottom line
And
receipts
if
and
anybody didn't get a
disbursement
copy of
figures.
this, I can hand it to you.
But Clark's got it
Those
up there
copies
on,
did not
on the
print off
board.
some of the
And
bottom
now
line
take
receipts
into
and
consideration,
disbursement figures.
this annual report
But
is
Clark's got
for
it up there
2020
on
on the
which we
board.
did not have a
And
fair
now
at
take
all.
into
And
consideration,
so there's very
this
little
annual
to
report
report
is
on here,
for
but
2020,
thing
of
that,
which we did not have a
needs to
fair
be recognized
at all. And
is
so
that
there's
our
very
total
little
to report
receipts,
on
which
here,
do
but
include the aid from the
thing
county.
that needs
Our
to be
other receipts
recognized
that we
is
had
that
from the
our
year
total
of
receipts,
2020
which
come
do
from
include
our
the aid
rental
from the
storage
county,
of boats and campers, our etc. other receipts
and a
that
few
we
little
had
donations.
from the year.
So our
of
total
2020
receipts
come
this year
from
were
our rental storage of boats and campers, etc. And a few little donations.
total
So our
disbursements
total receipts
were
this year were
$20,364.40.
Now, this is the cost
And our
of our
total
disbursements without
disbursements
holding a
were
fair, just the cost of insurance and maintenance of
$20,364.40.
ground, etc.
Now, this
And,
is the cost of our
Clark, I don't
fair
know if you
without
put that
holding a
previous
fair,
thing up
just the
on there
cost
that
of
I-
insurance and
in a
maintenance
normal
of
year,
ground,
the year
etc.
before. And
Because these annual
Clark, I
reports
don't know
are,
if you put
you know,
that
they
previous
get,
thing up on there that I
lump
because
sum
in a normal
categories.
year, the year before.
And in the past,
because these
year,
annual
I
reports are
made a
you know,
totally
they
itemized
get,
report for the
lump
board
sum
county or
categories.
the fair
And in
board
the
members, so
past-
they could see
the past
exactly
year,
where every penny
made a
was spent
totally
and every
itemized
penny was
report
gained
for the board
through
county or
receipts.
the fair board members, so they could see
And
exactly where every
in
penny
December of-
was spent and every penny was
In
gained.
December
through,
of
receipts.
19, the annual
And
end of the
in
year
December of expenses,
into December of
Totaled.
19, the annual
how many pages here?
end of the year expenses totaled,
That's right. How many pages
got my
here?
pages mixed up, sorry. The expenses totaled $67,951.83.
Got my pages mixed up, sorry.
And our receipts totaled
The expenses totaled
$67,951.83.
So we actually came ahead.
And our receipts
And
totaled
on that annual report for,
$84,799.98.
So
So
we
we cash
actually
on hand
came ahead
at the end of,
on that annual
report for 2019,
our cash on hand.
was, I'm so
at
used
the
to
end
licking
of-
my finger
of,
to turn
um,
pages and this mask is not helping me.
2019
Was, I'm so used to licking my finger to
Okay,
turn
cash
pages
on
and this mask
hand
is not helping me.
was $17,546.60.
And that is
Okay, the cash on
remaining from the
hand
profits of
was
the 2019 fair.
$17,546.
So if anybody has any questions.
And that is
of us,
remaining from the profits of the 2019
Yeah,
fair.
Pat.
So if anybody has any questions of us,
I'm on the Finance Committee, and as the administrator said,
Yeah,
later
Pat.
this year, the Finance Committee will be looking at contributions to outside organizations. As long as you have got a Finance Committee, and as the administrator said, later officer salaries and expenses will be looking at contributions to outside organizations. As long as you have got to justify, one of which is officer salaries and expenses, you've got $5,600 compensated for their work when the county is looking at making significant cuts. In particular, I want to point out that extension officers is compensated for their work, and if the county was cut or extension was cut, how would that impact the youth who are in 4-H being able to exhibit is a potential. I want to start with, and if the fair was cut or extension was cut, how would that impact the youth who are in 4-H when the county may have to cut? I want to start with including extension. Your explanation or justification for the officers
Our
being paid a
Secretary
salary
Gina
when
spends
the county
many,
may
many
have to
hours
cut
putting
positions,
together
including extension.
records and programs and advertising. Our Secretary Gina spends many, many hours putting together records and programs and advertising that we take out on our personal days. And she also works a full-time job, as I do, continue the fair. And so it's time that we take out on our personal days off to do this work. We have a little bit of other payments we make for Gina's salary mowing, 600 a year. And mine is during the fair, somebody takes care of the garbage. A little bit of other payments we make for the.
So the fair is called the Ashland County Fair, and I was in 4-H in Bayfield County as a youth, and familiar, with the idea of a fair. So the fair is called the Ashland County Fair, and I was in 4-H and it's called the Ashland County Fair, familiar, but with the. It's a label or title that's used involvement. But what if Ashland County didn't? It's called the Ashland County Fair. But would you cease to exist? It's a label or title that's used. But what if Ashland County didn't fund this? Would you still call it the Ashland County Fair? Would you cease to exist? Or would you look for alternatives? And what might
if the contribution were to sure thing. This is Brett Martinson again. Donation president were to Ashland County Fair taken away. If the contribution were to, if we would change the name, the donation, the support were from our other board members taken away. A discussion about I know it would be raised if we would change. I don't know where it would go. I don't know how folks would vote from our other board members, but we'd have a discussion about that. It would be definitely discussed. I don't know where it would go. And in regards to the comments about the question about the salaries and stuff like that, it would. I would say, and in regards to the comments of organization out there, we'd have to relook at what salaries and stuff paying or what we're. I would say, volunteering to do if our every organization out there, we'd have to relook at what not only the county but paying or what we're businesses in the county, volunteering to do or to drop. We'd have to look at that and say, okay, and donations from not only the county but we can businesses in the county look at maybe where to drop or maybe look at that and say, okay, and here's what we got in the coffers situation. What the only hiccup with the all look at maybe paying or maybe it is turns into it and all some of our board members and not necessarily my view on it, hiccup with the some of our board members would feel that the work that they do for those positions, some of our board members sometimes not necessarily my view on it. But some of our board members would feel that it would be up for discussion that they do for those positions.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the organizations, the county funds, they do have volunteers, and some of those organizations
be up for discussion within our board.
So what about extension service? Given the nature a lot of the organizations, the county funds, they do have a mandated service. Some of those organizations obviously pay some people. What about extension service? How would that, given the nature of the budget fair, would and extension is not a mandated service. Or if extension were no longer funded, how would that impact, be compensated for those exhibits based on how they play? Kids in 4-H still exhibiting.
It's huge. I think the extension, they're kind of the second arm of helping the 4-H. I mean, they're it. It's huge. So I think the extension, they're not there, then they're kind of the second arm of helping the 4-H. I mean, they're it. What else besides like open class? If they're not there, then that people do. What else is there? The 4-H. And the exhibit piece is so large with it. What else besides like open class? It's almost like that people do. What else you take them out? 4-H and the exhibit piece is so large with it then nobody's. It's almost not as many, not nobody. House of cards you take them out. Folks, it will show up because you won't have crumble because the kids. Not as many, not nobody, but not as many folks 4-H exhibits will show up because you won't have the support for the.
So if we face
the kids in 4-H doing the animal sale and the 4-H exhibits in our 4-H hall.
If you had to choose between reducing or eliminating the funding from the county, cuts which we're going to face Ashland County Fair, or cutting extension. If you had to choose, if you had to pick between reducing or eliminating the funding from the county,
I would say I would
pick reduce or cutting extension.
And the reason
if you had to pick between the two, which would you pick and why?
I would say any of the contribution, and I know for the 2021 year, it's been a reduction, and we're good with that. Without based on any of the contribution, and I know for the right move to make 1 year, it's been a reduction, and if it's a complete cut, based on us not having a fair this year, it was the right move to make. If it's a complete cut, takes away from the fair won't exist. Minimal things we can put into it. And you might be able to set up some small things minimal things we can put into it. Basically will make it disappear. You might be able to set up some small two-day event for the 4-H folks, but
Yeah, Laura, you're up next.
basically it'll make it disappear.
Thanks, Dick.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Now, what is it then? Is this
Yeah,
all
Laura, you're
volunteer,
up
like
next.
somebody just said, or are they paid salaries? Because I've heard both now. Now, what is it then? Is this all volunteer, like somebody just said, or are they paid salaries? Because I've heard both now. Contact, and I'm confused about that. Is it Dave that's also, there? Wouldn't this be more appropriate in finance? Because there we go. Messed that totally up, didn't I? I think it was. But I asked for this stuff after we went through finance because I did. There we go. Messed that totally up, didn't I? That's kind of our job in committee. But I asked for this stuff after we went through finance because I did want to know what was going on because that's kind of our job in committee. The appropriate. So questions on those officers here. I mean, everybody
Absolutely.
needs the information,
And I agree with
etc.
the
But
finance thing. We're more than
finance
welcome
would
to
seem to
come
be
and
the
sit at
appropriate
the
committee.
table and
But
discuss that.
questions on those officers.
Absolutely.
In regards to the officers,
and I agree
so,
with the finance thing, we're more than welcome.
we've
to come
got
and sit at
a
the table
president,
and discuss
vice
that.
president,
I'm all for that.
treasurer,
And secretary.
in regards to the officers,
The
so
president, the vice president, we're not a paid position, it's
we've
voluntary.
got a president,
It
vice
gives me gray
president,
hair, but that's okay.
treasurer,
And secretary.
the
president, the vice
the
president,
treasurer
we're not a paid
and the
position, it's
secretary,
voluntary.
from when I came into office
Gives
2
me
years
gray
ago,
hair, but that's okay.
it has been a paid position. The
However,
treasurer
what
and the
we
secretary,
end up doing
from
is
when I came into
they don't
office
get
2
paid
years
until
ago,
after the
it
fair.
has been a
Paid position.
piece of that is
However,
because
what we
if something
end up doing is they don't
happen
get paid
like a
until
rain
after the fair.
a rained out weekend, and
We basically end
piece
up
of that
upside
is
down.
because
We got to
if
come together as a
something
board and discuss, hey,
were to
there's
happen like
no
a
way
rain
we can
a
make
rained
this
out weekend,
happen.
and we
basically end up upside
that's
down.
kind of how we've been doing it.
We got to
in the
come
past,
together as a board
obviously
and
open for
discuss, hey,
suggestions and stuff like
there's
that.
no way we can make this happen.
No, it was just a point
that's
of
kinda how we've been
clarification
doing it
there
in the
because
past,
I heard
obviously
somebody
open
say
for
that it
suggestions
was
and stuff
all
like that.
volunteer and then no, it was just a point of clarification there because I heard somebody say that it was big amount of the amount that we do donate to salaries. There were salaries. Not that I mind people getting paid, I just big amount clarification. So the amount that we do donate to salaries.
Yeah,
So
Clarence?
not that I mind people getting paid, I just want clarification. So thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment about the salaries part of it.
Yeah, Clarence?
I've been a member of a lot of volunteer organizations over the years. And I just wanted to make a comment about the salaries part of it. I've been a member of a lot of the Ashland organizations over the years. And I was treasurer for 6 years. And one of them was the Ashland Youth Hockey. A budget of over $100,000 a year, which was basically concentrated in about a 6-month period of time from October. A budget of over $100,000 a year, which was basically concentrated in about a 6-month period of time from October income from player fees and things like that. Concession stand was an intense, basically, income situation for me as far as getting everything updated and in line and making sure that all the categories were as far as getting where they should be, everything updated. We had games during the week, tournaments on weekends, sure that all the and so forth. I did not get paid a dime where they should be. We had games during the week, tournaments on weekends, and so forth. I did not get paid a dime for that.
Elizabeth Franek here. Can I say something?
Matt?
I think I have the floor. And then
Elizabeth Franek here. Can I say something?
It's been reported back to me that somebody has suggested.
I think I have the floor now.
Fair, and there's nothing I shouldn't take too long. It's been reported back to me somebody that voted against the. Somebody has suggested I don't support motion that we had for the fair at our last meeting, and it was not me. You know, there was somebody that voted against the. I want to point out, I think we might be as a motion that we had for the fair at our last meeting, and it was not me. What other people should be paid. With that said, I want to point out, I think we might be as a group a little hit. One of the things that drew the most negative activity towards me was suggesting that we cut board pay, you know, their committee work. And, you know, if we look around the room, one of the things that drew the most negative activity towards me was suggesting that we cut board pay. I don't think, and what, you know, if we look around the room, most of us are making at least is something we should stick our nose into. Do this work. You know, we give you money to run the fair, and I think it's something you guys need to discuss we should stick our nose into. But I don't think you know, we give you money to run the fair, and I think it's something you guys need to discuss and paid something for your efforts. But I don't. I think it's great that we have volunteers charging, doing different things, getting paid something for some of them expend a great amount of energy doing. I think it's great, but let's be honest. We have volunteers as time doing different things. So the numbers, you know, some of them expend a great amount of energy problems doing it. But let's be honest. And if you look at those volunteers, most of them have sort of numbers for volunteers. It's one of the biggest problems. Chrome colored hair now, not white. And if you look at those volunteers, the truth of it is, most volunteers are getting older, and younger people are considered chrome colored hair without paying for some of that stuff we're not going to have. But the truth of it is, most volunteers are getting older. That over the years of my time here on the board, it's been discussed more than once. I know what should we do with the fair? Over the years, should we cut it? Of my time here on the board, at one point, one of our fellow board members was more than once. What should we do with the fair? Should we cut it? Discussion was. At one point, one of our fellow board members was very involved with the Pioneer Days down in you know, as far as can 4-H be judged somewhere else, and the answer down in with that, they had no interest in. Yes, it can be. But you know, as far as the Ashland County Fair be judged somewhere else, and the answer to that, we looked into that and contribute some money to it that has gone up just in the last few years. Ashland County Fair is a fair, as I recall, we only gave a few $1,000 to some money to it that has gone up just in the last few years and increased that. And initially, as I recall, we only gave a few $1,000 to the fair, but we had some new board members come in and increase that. You guys had time to look at reducing it, and I think it was fingers that we have good weather for the fair. I'm satisfied that we probably did the right thing this year. And
anyone else want
to
comment?
Do what you need to do. And
Ms. Brannick, can I say something?
For the fair next year. Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I had thought just brainstorming out there. Can I say something? If funds are cut for the fair, and I had, you know, they can't afford a brainstorming secretary or anything like that. Funds are cut for the fair, and you could, you know, they can't afford maybe a junior intern secretary or anything like that. Member that the options out there, you know, something to pat their maybe a junior intern. That's a 4-H member, be an idea that get a junior intern. You know, something I really would not want to cut funding for the fair. That would be an idea. So many kids to get a junior intern. You know, so many people in the community would not want to. Another thing is for the fair. There's so many kids that it benefits maybe, there, and you know, so many people in the community interested in going to the fair. Another thing is maybe a lot of people to seek out maybe. You know, a big name band that hasn't toured for many years, but still maybe touring to seek out. I know John Bon Jovi does a lot for band that hasn't toured for many years, but if we could reach out to, I know John Bon Jovi does a lot. I mean, we're not going to get him for humanity, but a band like that, if we could reach out to their services. A band we could like his, I mean, we're not going to get him to, but a band like that would donate an idea. There might be a band that, and we could just, you know, advance ticket sales to benefit the fair. Would just donate throwing an idea out there. There might be a band that, you know, is a lower budget band that would donate some services to our area. Thank you.
4-H groups that are coming from the extension office. Okay. Each year they have to do an end of the year report, like a book groups. They have to hand in their coming from the extension office. If they do not enter in the county fair, they have to do an end of the year report, like a book. They have to hand in their 4-H. They have to enter. If they do not enter in the county fair, they do not go to the state level. I think how many remember that. Some of them have 20. They have to 25 people in the Ashland County Fair. To take away the funding from the county fair, we would be the only county in the 72 counties in Wisconsin without a county fair. To take away the funding from the county fair, we would be the only county in the 72 counties in Wisconsin. Each year at the county fair, we have an Ashland County Board of Supervisors horseshoe pitching. I understand the budget is tough, but Each year at the county fair, Laura Negro is the champion right now. She has to defend her title at the county fair. So the last thing I would like to do is invite Laura Negro is the champion right now. She has to defend her title at the county fair. It's not the Marengo Fair. So the last thing I would like to do is invite all of you. It's a great day. You don't have to be good at throwing horseshoes. County fair. It's just a fun event. It's not the Marengo Fair for us to get together and throw horseshoes. It's a great day. You don't have to be good at throwing horseshoes. Thank you for letting us come to the event. Full board to ask and throw if you want questions, we're here to ask. We are a volunteer. Thank you for letting us come. I have never received full board to ask. 9.5 years. If you want questions, we're here to ask. And we are ask about not paying the clerk and the treasurer a dime. If you do any kind of bookwork now, all these forms have to be sent to the state. Ask about not paying the clerk and the treasurer. Me to do it. If you do any kind of bookwork now, have to be paid positions in order to know what the money looks like on this sheet that you all got. Me to do it. Gina and Doreen, I hope the day never comes in order to know what the money looks like on this sheet that you all got. So to Gina and Doreen, I hope the day never comes that we do not financially support you for all your hard work all year long. Thank you.
Any motion to approve?
Nope, we don't need any motion. That's just information discussion.
Okay, we'll go to C5, motion to approve time off
We
for
don't need any
staff
motion. That's just
in 2021.
discussion.
Clerk?
This came from a recommendation
we'll go
from the
to
executive
C5,
committee, basically because
time
of the
off for
budget
staff
shortfalls and our cash
in
position. was
2021.
running out of cash.
Clerk?
This came from
we
a
obviously
recommendation
cannot
from
give
the
any
executive
staff
committee,
increases,
basically because
and
of
the
the
executive
executive
and our
committee
cash
thought
position
was
was
wise to
cash.
give
We
something
obviously
to
cannot give
the
any
staff
staff
increases. This will be a
And the,
temporary
executive
policy.
committee
Thought it was wise at the end of this year. Something the motion is moved to add an additional 40 temporary policy off bank for full hires at the end of this year. And prorate part-time. The motion is moved to add an additional 40 hours personal time and elected officials for full-time Ashland County staff and prorate part-time employees from a cost standpoint. It's hard to put a number on it, not including union. If we have like jail staff that have to be replaced, there might be some overtime expense with that. From a cost standpoint, it's hard to put a number on it. Take somebody like myself, we have like jail staff that have to be replaced regardless. Overtime expense with that. And this will not be paid out. Somebody like myself to your sick time bank at the end of the year because you pay me regardless. It's pretty much just for the most part, this will not be paid out. You can't, but it does allow staff to have time off at the end of the year. I have got some feedback from some staff. It's pretty much just for the most part, it's a budget neutral issue. They're already short staffed. They already don't have time off. I have got some feedback from more people take time off. It's going to be just create a greater workload for the staff that are they're already short staffed. They already, but we don't really have any good options. And if more people take time off, I would seek a motion. It's going to just create a greater workload for the staff that are remaining there. But we don't really have any good options.
This is Laura Negro, a second.
I would seek a motion. Motion by Matt. Second by Laura.
This is Laura Negro, a second.
By Matt McKenzie and a
motion by Matt.
Second by Laura Negro.
Second by Laura.
To approve the have a motion and by Matt McKenzie and staff 2021. All those in favor say aye. To
aye.
Aye. Time off for staff in 2021. All those in favor say aye. Shawamigan Outboard Boating Club lease.
This comes from the first committee. There's putting a 20-year lease on
Shawamigan Outboard Boating Club lease.
Done on our boat ramp. This comes from the first in town here. There's putting a 20-year lease on the. This was negotiated by Chris Hoffman from the Forest Committee in town here with the president of the association. Outboard Boating Club. We have a this was negotiated by Chris Hoffman from the Forest Committee. He met 20-year lease. President of the association. It's a nominal payment. We have a lease. I don't know, like $100 a year to approve this 20-year lease. With that, I would seek a nominal payment. Seek a motion to approve the I don't know, like $100 a year or something like that. So,
do we have a motion?
With that, I would seek a motion to approve.
Motion made by Rich Club. We have a second.
Please.
Do we have a motion by Kathy Schutte? All those in favor say aye.
I have a point of discussion.
Yeah, Dick, normally we would go a motion second, then ask for any discussion.
All those in favor say aye.
I have a point of discussion.
Yeah, Dick, normally we would go a motion a second, then ask for any discussion. So kind of create a pause in there.
Chairman, this is Philomena Quebec, Supervisor Quebec. I just have a question for Clark.
Go ahead.
Chairman, I'm wondering if there's been any analysis about the fair market value for Clark? This lease. It seems like it's probably under fair market analysis about the fair market value of this. I'm not opposed to it for that reason. It seems like I think it's probably under fair market value. And have a discussion about that. I'm not opposed to it for that reason, but I think it's important to have a discussion about that.
Chris Hoffman, are you on the line?
I am. There's been no discussion about the fair market value of the leases down there, or the lease down there. There's been no discussion about the fair market value of the leases down there, or the lease down start to even try to figure that out. It's one of the last. The old lease payment was $100. We increased it to $150. I don't know where I would start to handle all the maintenance issues. The old lease payment was $100. We increased it to $150. But as far as fair market value, and they handle all the maintenance issues and grass mowing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're going to be having these conversations later on in this discussion about the really tight finances of the county, when we're going to be having these conversations later on in this discussion about the really tight finances. There needs to be some thought into looking at these types of transactions, because I think there needs to be some thought into lakefront property. Is these types of transactions darn expensive, because I'm be able to lakefront property have some kind of private pretty enjoyment of darn expensive, and so it's be able to I would really have some kind of private county department enjoyment to and so it's take a I would really encourage engagement, some thought county engagement about whether or not this type of transaction do some engagement, some thought beneficial about the entire county, for all the members this of our type county. Of transaction not just is beneficial for the entire, especially county, when we're thinking about all the to extension members of our county, not just cuts to certain programs that really benefit a great number when we're thinking about cuts county to extension and other cuts to programs that really benefit a great number of county residents.
Right? That's correct. The county owns that land, and there's a public boat landing there. We own that land, right? There's an artesian well there. Lots of people come and get That's correct. The county owns that land, and there's a public boat landing there. The county owns the property. There's an artesian well there. Lots of people come and get water for their homes at that well. But the county owns the property.
We wouldn't lease a boat ramp to somebody. From the boat ramp perspective, it's for everybody to maintain the boat ramp. We can't, the land itself that's around the boat to somebody, where the boathouses because obviously it's meant for everybody. There could possibly be an RFP put out if the land itself that's around the boat ramp to lease that entire piece of property. There could possibly be an RFP put out. I would not be personally interested in managing. Individual wanted to lease that entire piece of property, chunks of property along that. I would not be personally interested in managing. That could be something if the board wanted to. We could put on RFP for property along that or along that beach, but basically that could be something if the board wanted to. We could put on RFP except for the boat ramp organization. Or would that be something that could be done? Could basically lease
yeah, that would be something that could be done, and that's essentially what we've done here.
Would that be
the county owns all the land, including the land that the boathouses yeah, that would be something that could be done, and that's essentially what we've done here. Originated the county owns all the land, early 80s, including the land that the boathouses sit on, and the boat club was formed then to represent. This lease was originated back in boathouse early 80s, I believe. So that's essentially the situation that we're in now. The boat club was formed then to represent. They own the boathouses, we own the land underneath. So that's essentially the situation that we're in now.
Yeah,
they own the boathouses, we own the land underneath.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we shouldn't table this matter until it can be referred to either executive or finance and let them look at the fee base. Yeah, I'm wondering if we shouldn't table this matter until it can be referred to either executive or finance club there, and let them look at the fee base for what this is proposed. I'm not opposed to renewing the lease with the club there, but I think there is valid committees that normally deal with those issues and make a recommendation back to the full board. It's my belief that executive and or finance decide committees that normally deal with those issues and make a recommendation back to the full board. So I would make a motion that we table this and refer it to one or both of those committees. How can we bring it in line? So I would make a motion that we table this
Ron
and
Stender will
refer it
second
to
that.
one or both of those committees.
Who seconded it? Pat Kitty.
Ron Stender will second that.
Ron Stender seconded.
We already have a
Who
motion on
seconded
the
it?
table for this, don't we?
Pat Kitty.
Ron Stender.
Ron Stender seconded.
And besides that, in the discussion piece, not only do I agree with Philomena and Matt, why did the lease go from a 10-year to a 20-year? Because that was another thing. Not only do I agree with Philomena and Matt, keeping check on the value. Why did the lease go from a 10-year to a 20-year? Because that was another thing is, I thought it was,
I just extended it to make it more efficient so we wouldn't have to deal with it in 10 years.
Why did that jump double? Thank you.
I just extended it to make it more efficient so we wouldn't have to deal with it in 10 years.
Pepe, if you're going to speak, you have to walk up to the
Go to the
microphone.
mic. Pepe.
I'd like to know, does each vote how?
Pepe, if you're going to speak, you have to walk up to
You
the
have to go to the
microphone.
mic.
Yeah, so I think because there was an original motion to approve this in a second, yeah, so I think because there was an original motion I believe you need in a second. We have a motion and a second to approve this contract. No, I believe you need, is voted down, then we can have a secondary motion and a second to approve this contract. That vote is voted down, then we can have a secondary motion. You're not voting to reject it, you're voting to table it. You're not voting to reject it, you're voting to table it.
Here we have a question.
Just a
Yes,
point
Gary.
of order. You lay it on the table, you need a second, but you can't debate it.
We have a
It
question.
cannot, just a
Yes,
point
Gary.
of order, cannot be amended. You lay it on the table, you need a second, but you can't debate it. So we can't even debate this, we'd only have to. Cannot be amended. Proper. The vote requires a majority.
Carry around a Robert's rules.
So
I'm
we
actually
can't even
really
debate
impressed.
this. We'd
That's
only have
actually
to vote
impressive.
If it's proper.
You carry around a All right, Robert's rules. Thank you for that clarification. I'm
live with
actually
that.
really impressed. That's actually impressive. Basically, the with the cheat sheet for Robert's rules. All right, thank you for that clarification. The motion is to table it. There is a second. So basically, the debate, we just vote on it. Cheat sheet for Robert's rules here. The motion is to table. Basically, it's tabled. It's not open for debate, so that would be vote on basically without discussion. And then if you need to vote on it. Passes, then we basically it's tabled.
All right, we have
and
a
be
motion
referred
on the
back.
table
So that would be- so basically,
to
without
table
discussion,
this
just
item
need to vote on
until
it,
it goes to finance.
to table it.
All right, we have a motion on the
All those
table.
in favor
Favor say aye. To
Aye.
table this
Aye.
item until it goes to finance. All those in
Yeah, we
favor
better
say
do a
aye.
roll call on this.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, County clerk, roll call, please.
Brannick,
Yeah, we better do a roll call on this.
Okay,
Yes.
County clerk, roll call, please.
Kufal,
No.
Brannick, Stendor,
Yes.
Kufal, Berlin,
No.
Yes.
Stendor,
Yes.
Corpola,
Yes.
Berlin, Mika,
Yes. No.
Corpola,
Yes.
Mika, Huber,
No. No.
Vitek, Hennanen,
Yes. Yes.
Huber, Wiener,
No.
Hennanen, Shudi,
Yes. No.
Wiener, Murdig, oh, absent.
No.
Shudi, Negro,
No.
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Quebec,
Yes.
Negro, Metzger, Mackenzie,
No.
Campbell, Quebec,
Yes.
Yes.
Metzger,
No. Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Ortman. Kabasa.
Yes.
Yes.
Kinney.
Yes.
Ortman.
Yes.
Yes.
13 yes, 6 no.
Okay, the motion carries to table the
13 yes, 6
voting club
no.
lease until it goes through the finance committee. Okay, the motion carries to table the number 7 voting club lease until it goes through the finance committee schedule policy.
Okay,
We'll
this
go
is
to number
comes
7,
through the executive committee
records
also.
retention
This
schedule policy.
basically allows the county to dispose of records sooner than 7 years. The executive committee also. We follow the state. This basically allows the county to dispose of records sooner than 7 years. Corp Counsel. Follow the state, and he worked with the state, and we basically adopted. This was developed by in coordination with Corp Counsel. The process is we basically approve a resolution, and we basically adopted 01/2021-1375 operation. That process is we basically approve a resolution. It will resolution R01/2021. It'll give the state the intent that you as a county board will in turn take this schedule. We send it down to the state. The state will review that schedule. It'll give the state compliance that you as a county board back to the county, and then we will pass an ordinance. Send it down to the state. The state will review that schedule for compliance, and then it will come back to the county, and then we will pass an ordinance. And so that's the process. This will be not the first time that you see this, but records retention schedule. It's rather long, and so that's the process. This will be not the first time that you see this. Work has been put in there by the county administrator and the Corp Counsel. It's rather long. So with that, a lot of detail that's been worked out in there. A ton of work has been put in there by motion to approve resolution R01/2021-13. So with that, I would just
Motion to approve resolution, Supervisor Quebec.
A motion to approve resolution R01/2021-13. Second.
Delavina made the motion.
Motion to approve resolution, Supervisor Quebec. Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, Quebec first, Schutte seconded. Second.
Delavina made the motion. Schutte seconded it. Okay,
Yes,
we have
Chairman.
a motion and a second
Yeah, Quebec first, Schutte seconded.
to approve the retention schedule policy, and okay, we have a motion and a second. Resolution R01 retention schedule policy, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Resolution R01 2021-1375. Motion carries. Thank you. Say aye.
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 Ashland County EMS opposed.
For those of you who
Motion
are aware,
carries. Thank you.
we gave an update previous, and I've given a couple updates.
Ashland
also
County
at-
EMS update.
Great Divide. Those of you who are aware, we gave an update. Discontinued services. I've given a couple updates also for 6 towns in the Great Divide lost. And you can basically discontinued services effective 12/21 for 6 towns in the and at this point. And you can White River is contracted with Ashland Fire, Morris, Gordon, Shannon Golden. Morris and Ashland at this point are contracting with Velen Fire. White River is contracting with Ashland Fire, confirmed. And Marengo, Gordon, and Morris and Ashland are contracting with Velen Fire. Have no provider. And this is information that was about a week old from Marengo, Gordon, Dave McGuire, the director for Shannon Golden will have no provider. And this is information that was about a week old from information. Dave McGuire, the director for the affected areas. Services. So the one thing that this you can see in your write-up information for the board. We are working the affected areas console. So the one thing that understand the limits and liability and exposure update for the board that live in these towns. We are working with Corp Counsel. Basically, have no expectation of the limits and liability and exposure. There isn't any. Nobody has to live in these towns. People who have ambulance coverage basically have no expectation of ambulance service. Those ambulance have there isn't any nobody has to come to serve the area ambulance coverage with. Only if they have excess ambulance have a obligation. Will they basically respond to a mutual aid serve the areas that they contract? So one of the questions that we have for the sheriff's capacity and for EMS will they basically respond? And there isn't anybody. We have to go down the line. Look, one of the questions that we have and if nobody does respond, what does that mean? Somebody calls up and there isn't anybody is there. We have to go down the line, look for mutual aid. And what does that mean? And if nobody does respond, what does that mean for dispatch? If a deputy that goes down to an emergency to respond. And what is the limits of our liability concerning for our sheriff's patrol? or a deputy that goes down to an emergency, help out to the best of their ability, because an ambulance just isn't available for mutual aid from anybody else. Concerning if they try to help out to the best of their ability, we're going to be working on those legal issues available for mutual aid from this is one of those areas where, so, you know, if we had money, we really are going to be working on those legal issues. If we had money, and this is one of those areas where maybe some sort of scholarship if we had money, people to and we really are just running out of cash. Training at WITC, but if we had money to become EMS responders, maybe some sort of scholarship program to help people overall supply in this whole northwest training at WITC. To become EMS responders and money, we really can't do that kind of help for these towns supply in this whole northwestern part of Wisconsin. So there really isn't any motion. This is just an update, and it's all in your packet. Money, we really can't do that kind of help for these towns. Are there any questions about this? I'll be happy to take. So there really isn't any motion. This is just an update, and it's all in your packet.
Are there any questions?
Matt? Are there any questions about this? I'll be happy to take them. Matt, can you? Sorry.
Are there any questions, Matt?
Recognize that this is actually a town problem in that they're the ones that, it's my understanding, can tax. Recognize that this is actually a town problem in that they're the ones that, it's my understanding. I recognize the situation. I'm wondering if we can help, and at least in the leadership usually perform the service, finding a solution. I recognize the situation, and I'm wondering if we can help committee, if you will, or more correctly, a working group that could look at possible solutions. Forming some sort of suspicion is committee, if you will, take state involvement. Or more correctly, a working group. You know, that would be look at possible the county could help facilitate that, so that we take state involvement. The people down in Madison to recognize that would be where that the county could help shared facilitate that, so that we can get you know, we all know what's Madison to recognize that you know, get a recognition. Part of what shared revenue help to provide this essential service. You know, we all know what's been happening to those shared revenues, and get a recognition that we need help to provide this essential service.
One of the issues for a countywide solution, the state law, and I've talked to the state director for EMS for this region. Yeah, so one of the issues for a countywide separate levy outside of the levy law, and I've talked to the state director for EMS for this region. The county can raise taxes and have a separate levy outside of the levy limits physically in the business to provide a county-wide EMS, you know, buying ambulances, putting up buildings, hiring in the business. And we're talking part physically in the business. We could basically tax the entire county, you know, buying ambulances, putting up buildings, hiring staff. I have not investigated what that means for the departments that already have services. For that service, City of Ashland and City of Mellon. I have not investigated what that means for the those residents have taxed, and they also have to pay for their service plus the countywide service. I've not investigated that. Do those residents get taxed, and they also have to pay for their service plus the countywide service? I've not investigated that. We have a cash crunch, and we probably are going to have a tough time making payroll. To basically open up a new department, the county is in any position concerning we have a cash crunch, and we probably are going to have a tough time making payroll. I don't have a good solution. You are right. Open up a new department, towns with new people, provide this service to their residents. I don't have a good solution. You are right. Basically, unless the county shall provide this service to their residents. There isn't any choice. And if they basically, unless the county, I've talked to our legislators about this issue, EMS, and you know, we really don't have a good. I don't have a good solution for this. I've talked to our legislators. I know one of the towns, they got a bid. It was like, we really don't have a good. I don't know. Like, I don't have a good solution for this. And I know one of the towns that they were paying $40,000. It was like, so yeah, it can be very expensive very quick. $400,000 to provide the service that they were paying $40,000 for. So yeah, it can be very expensive.
WITC has a lot of scholarships, and you can fund a scholarship. There's a long list of them. So one possibility is to look at the existing scholarships. Has a lot of scholarships, and you can fund a scholarship. There's a long list of them. So one possibility is to look at the existing scholarships that WITC working with WITC a wide range of them. Scholarship if the county wanted to work on taking the initiative, or the township that may provide a source of scholarship money going forward. Working with WITC to set up a scholarship there that members of the public alumni can contribute to serve. That may provide a source of scholarship money going forward. These services. Where to apply for the scholarship, the administrator or the appropriate committee on you are going to make some of those connections in Ashland County to provide these services. So I'd be happy to work with the administrator or the appropriate committee on making some of those connections.
First responders been tossed around as an idea for the townships.
Go ahead, Laura.
So that way, if they do have this contracted service, they first responders tossed one of the areas I lived in for the townships. So that way, my first mother-in-law was a first responder, and I might have volunteer first responders. One of the areas I lived in, so that way people can get stability within their township right away, and then the ambulance can get there. Cases and. So that way people can get stability within their township right away, and then the ambulance can get there.
Townships have a responsibility to provide EMS service. I'm not aware of that's a benefit, but the problem is they need to contract with an ambulance, and 3 do not have that. If they can get an emergency responder, that's a benefit, but the problem is they need to contract with an ambulance, and 3 do not have that as of
So
today.
the town of Marengo is the one that does not have EMS or ambulance service at this time. It ended on December 31st. So the town of Marengo is the one that does not have WIT service at this time. It ended on December 31st. And EMT services. The town of Marengo is paying at WIT side to go to school to learn to go with the EMR and EMT services. An ambulance. The town of Marengo is nobody can run it until these people are to go to school to learn to go with 4 to 9 months to get. We have purchased an ambulance, so imagine if can run it until needed an ambulance and you dialed 911, will take 4 to 9 months to get service through the training. So imagine if nobody has to come to an ambulance and you dialed 911, and because we don't have a service. Ashland can say they're busy, and they are. Mellon can say nobody has to come to answer the all of them. They're busy. We have no one that will. Ashland can say they're busy, and they are. Mellon service agreement. Park Falls, all of them, they're busy. Ambulance services. We have no one. Other ambulance services will answer the call. Do not have the manpower to take on a big group of people. With the city of Mellon, the other ambulance services do not have the manpower 7 days a week on a big group of city of Mellon. Now they just took on Tona Morris and Tona Ashland. Part-time people who work 7 days a week. Neither does the city of Ashland. They're short. Now they just took on Tona Morris and Tona Ashland. They don't have, and the county can't take this project on because neither does the city of Ashland. They're short 3 people to put up an EMS. It's really a tough thing. And it got thrown in our lap. Take this project on because this is a 3-year plan that you need to have to do an EMS program. Here we are. We have and it got thrown in our laps with 3 to 4 months time to make a decision.
This is Supervisor Quebec. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Go ahead.
So I've just done a little tiny bit of research into this topic myself. Chairman, may I be recognized? And I think maybe Clark can clarify some of this stuff as well. Just done because I'm not research at all an expert myself in local government finance at this point. Clark can clarify some of this stuff as well. My understanding is that there is a barrier at all an expert in local government finance at this point. But my understanding is that there is a barrier to services because it's not classified as an essential service, funds like fire and police. Providing EMT services because it's not classified as an essential service. Like fire barrier within police, our state statutory services that makes and so there's these kind of services. There's this financial barrier within townships and state statutory system. I'm probably not saying this right. That makes funding these kind of services. Feel free to jump in and correct more difficult for townships, but it has to do with property taxing. I'm probably not saying this right, and Clark. The taxing. Please feel free to jump in and correct me.
Yeah, I'm not aware
but it
of
has to do with property taxing and the taxing
issues on levy limits, but they're
regime.
like any other municipality. I'm not aware of the levy limit laws, which I did speak about for issues on levy limits, but they're like any other municipality, and there are exemptions for levy limit laws, which I think part of it is, I think Kathy hit the nail on the head, which we wanted to raise taxes on everybody. It's partly money, but it's also about capacity. I think part of it is just not enough people. Kathy hit the nail on the head, which is where I talked about this before. When you think about partly money, but it's days of yore when you had just not enough people would volunteer. You had all these different social clubs and all these different things. The book came out days of yore when 20 years ago, bowling people would volunteer. You had all these different social clubs and all these different things. The book came out devolving because 20 years ago, don't want to do that stuff anymore. We're basically firefighting and EMS that used to be more of a social group club for people to get together. Devolving because people don't want to do that stuff anymore. And there is a comment here in the chat box, which used to be more of a club for people to get together. And people, all this has been talked about with state legislators, nothing. And there is a comment here in the chat box, which currently has 5 people in class right now. Watson. Not everyone completed all this has been talked about. State legislators, Mellon has been dropping calls ever single week. Marengo currently has 5 people in class right now. Not everyone completed registration properly. That was just a written comment there that I wanted to highlight. How is that any good for the citizens of Ashland County? And so,
Any more comments?
that was just a written comment there that I wanted to highlight.
Are there any more comments? Move along. Number 9, fair map referendum for the April. Hearing none, we'll move along. 2021 election.
This is a resolution which is calling for a referendum for the April 6th election regarding the fair mapping for redistricting. This is a resolution which is calling for a referendum brought to you by the League of Women Voters regarding the fair mapping for redistricting for the state of Wisconsin. As the commentators had earlier said in public comments, brought to you by the League of Women Voters on the ballot at the November election. As the commentators had earlier said, and so what this calls for is a bipartisan, put this on the ballot at the November election that would basically do the redistricting every 10 years after the census. What this calls for is a bipartisan for the congressional and Senate group that would basically do the redistricting every 10 years after the census happens. This wouldn't be addressed at the county level and Senate, just for reference for the congressional districts basically within the state. This wouldn't be addressed at the county level. Studying that issue this coming spring just and for reference needs, and we'll be looking at the county board will need to make decisions if they want to keep with 21 studying that issue this coming spring and summer. Some districts, and we'll be looking at they want to stay with 21 districts. We'll need to make we have to redraw the map with 21 districts, change those districts. They want to go down to some districts population want to stay with 21 districts. We have to redraw the maps and change those districts state issue to and reflect population changes, seek a resolution, equitable size. Seek a motion to approve resolution R01-2121-1374 with fair map resolution for referendum in April. Seek a motion to approve resolution R01-2121-1374 fair map resolution calling for a referendum in April. Motion by Clarence.
Marty Vitek seconded. We have a motion and a second. We have a second.
Motion by Clarence.
Marty Vitek seconded. 6th election. We have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Laura has a question.
The referendum for
Laura has
just a point of clarification. It's not a bipartisan, it's a nonpartisan.
Laura has a question.
What?
Laura has, what did I say?
Just a point of clarification. It's not a bipartisan, it's a nonpartisan procedure that they're looking for.
What did I say?
Bipartisan.
Anybody else have a question?
Okay. Sorry.
Matt.
It's all good.
To me, this is not about Democrat or Republic. It's about right and wrong. And I think the request is a logical request and something that we should do. To me, this is not about Democrat or Republic. It's about right and wrong. To put this, I think the request is a logical request and something that we should do. And I even question, do we need a resolution to put this as a referendum? I think as a county, the county, as we're required to do, in this fashion, and we could then also send a letter to the state legislature the county on behalf as we're required to do want them in this fashion thing. And we could then also send a letter to the I have no problem with this saying that on behalf of Ashland County. We can want them to save the money and putting it on the ballot and just get it done here today. So I have no problem with this.
The procedure for putting something on the ballot is the county board needs to pass a referendum
and just get it done here today.
That language will be basically the procedure for putting something on the ballot is the county board needs to pass a referendum for the election. In this case, 70 days that language before the election would be forwarded to the county clerk. I forgot what it was. It's probably in the write-up. April 70 days before the election. In this case, 70 days before the election would be like that language. So that's the process to get something on the ballot. Write-up. April, January 23rd, a resolution. So basically, this week we'll forward that language.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the resolution R01-2021-1374. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the resolution. We need a roll call on this. R01-2021-1374.
Unless somebody requests it, I think there's pretty good consensus on this. Unless a county board member requests it, we would just basically just approve it. Unless somebody requests it, I think there's pretty good consensus on this. Unless a county board member requests it,
and all those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Consent almost.
Aye.
Okay, we'll just vote on this then. All those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 10 on the agenda, road agreement with Enbridge.
And actually for
We'll go to,
county clerk reference, George.
Number 10 on the
is,
agenda, road agreement with
heading out,
Enbridge.
driving, so he's checking out. And actually for county clerk
Thank you.
reference, George back to you, November heading out, go driving. So meeting at the county board, we brought this
Thank
agreement
you.
to sign, to direct November commissioner to sign the road agreement with Enbridge. County board agreement with brought this agreement in the county to sign, to direct the highway commissioner. And the county board directed me with Enbridge. Enbridge has signed an agreement with every nominal in the county, nominal amount of dollars for the highway. County board directed me to talk to Enbridge, find out if they could give us a nominal data to see what, nominal amount of dollars was done to the road when, and if they pay us for the road damage. And review the data to see what. In talking with Enbridge, what kind of damage was done. They work with thousands of townships and hundreds of counties. They said they don't ever do that. In talking with Enbridge, they said they work with thousands of townships and hundreds of counties. We have to sign the agreement. Ever do that with that, we don't have to sign the agreement. A motion to approve, to direct the highway commissioner. If we want any money, we have to sign the agreement. And with that, I would just seek a motion to approve, to direct the highway commissioner
A
to sign the
motion
road use
by
agreement
Bill
with Enbridge.
Metzinger to approve. Bill, second. Kathy Schutte seconded. We have a motion by Bill Metzinger
Chairman,
to
I just have
approve.
one thing to say.
Was the second? Go ahead, Kathy Schutte seconded.
So according to
Chairman, I
Enbridge's
just have one thing
own
to say.
literature about line 5,
Go
it
ahead.
pumps 540,000. It has a capacity for 540,000 literature about line 5. That amounts to 540,000. It has a capacity for 540,000 barrels of oil per day. That amounts to, and so this million dollars that's provided by Enbridge, the value today, I think, is pretty per day interesting. And so, it speaks to the fact provided by Enbridge, I think, is pretty, that is not interesting, interested in real partnership with our communities. It speaks to the fact that I'm going to be voting to approve this today. That is not what we've got. Interested in real partnership with our communities. It really speaks to. So I'm going to be voting the true nature of this corporation. Thank you. But again, I think it's really speaks to the true nature of this corporation. Thank you. That's all.
Bill. Go ahead, Matt.
What is your question, or what would you?
Go ahead, Matt.
Can't hear.
Bill, can you come up to the microphone? No one at home can hear you.
What is your question, or what would you?
We can't hear.
Highway committee meeting
Bill,
yesterday.
can you come up to the microphone? No one at home can hear you.
Matt explained it very well as far as what he went through. We had a highway committee meeting yesterday, again, Matt, so that the whole board gets a chance to hear very well as far as what he went through. And I'd like you to explain that again, Matt, so that the whole board gets a chance to hear.
The townships that would be involved have all signed off on this agreement.
Closer to the microphone.
Okay. I feel it's a very beneficial agreement that puts us in a position that have all signed off on this agreement when there is road damage. I feel it's a very beneficial agreement. It puts us in a position that, as you all know, we're in a budget crunch. There is road damage. We cannot afford to fix any roads, get this compensated to have our roads fixed. If we have a mechanism in place beforehand, a budget crunch, we will be able to. We cannot afford to fix any road damage behind Enbridge. So one of my biggest concerns is County Highway A. We will be able to their maps. They're planning on using the Johnston Timber Woodyard. One of my biggest concerns is County Highway A pipe supply. Look at their maps. Yard plan on using the Johnston Timber County A Woodyard as a road, and then using the town of Jingles roads to access the pipeline yard. That road is using County A out to Holmes Road, and then very well used, and we'll have to access the pipeline. We have to have a mechanism to. Going to be compensated very well used, and will have damage at that point. In my opinion, we have to have a mechanism to be compensated for that road damage. That agreement, in my opinion, would allow that to happen.
Pepe, you need to speak to the microphone if you want to ask a question.
Kathy.
Pepe, you need to
If
speak
they're
to the
going
microphone if you want to ask a
to-
question.
take care of us once we sign that paper. What if they're going to, that makes us take care of sign them, if they're such a good company and they're gonna bust up our road. Paper. And they said they'll pay for it as long as we have to sign them. If they're such a good company and they're gonna bust up
We
our
don't have to
road.
sign it and they didn't have to offer
And they
it.
said they'll pay for it as long as we
They
sign.
have the right to
What's
use
the
the road,
deal?
so we would have a tough time to stop them from using. We don't have to sign it and they didn't have to offer it. This just makes it easier. They have the right agreement if there is damage, time that they would pay for it from using our roads. If we do not sign the agreement, this just makes it not saying that it's possible. Pre-agreement to get if there is damage, it's very possible for it. It just would be if we do not sign the agreement process. That's not saying that it's possible to get other people involved instead of. It's very possible. It just would be probably a bigger process. You might have to get lawyers involved, other people involved. instead of
Okay,
a
so
simple-
we can't say, no, you
simple
can't use
process
this
to-
road is
We
out
could,
of the.
get compensation for that.
Okay, so we can't say, no, you can't use this road is
Yeah,
out of
Kathy.
the.
So there are 4 towns in Ashland County that are going to benefit from this road use agreement. They are
Kathy.
Jingles, White River, Maringo, and Ashland. So there are 4 towns in Ashland County that are going to benefit from this road use agreement. They are Jingles, White River, Maringo, and Ashland. So here's the easy way to describe this. Enbridge is going to come in and put a pipeline in. They're going to use our roads. Some are going to get wrecked. Here's the easy way to describe this. Enbridge is going to come in and put a pipeline in. They're going to use our roads. Some are going to get wrecked. Before they came there. They will agree. Towns cannot afford the roads, the repairs to the roads better than they were so we can move forward. The towns get our roads fixed after they're done putting in the pipeline. We need to sign this agreement. The towns cannot, so we can move forward and get our roads after they're done putting in the pipeline. The towns cannot
Pepe.
afford to do road repair after Enbridge is done.
Do you have that in writing?
Pepe.
Yes, it's in the road use agreement that the towns have already signed up.
Okay, so that is in writing that they will
Yes,
fix
it's
our
in the
roads
road use
better
agreement that
than they were.
The towns have already signed up.
I don't know that.
Okay, so it is in writing that they will fix our roads better than they were. Okay.
Sure, I don't know that it actually says with pavements, it's hard to put it back to a used condition, so I would expect
Okay.
it would be a new pavement. I mean, with pavements, it's hard to.
Well, I'm on
put it back
Holmes
to a
Road and I'm
used
just
condition, so
wondering because
would
I was
expect
on
it would
Prentice
be
Avenue and I
a new
had
pavement to a
75,
new
80
condition.
semis going. Well, I'm on Holmes Road and I'm just wondering because I was on Prentice Avenue. Do my cookies and my cakes 75, 80 semis going by? Not much you can do about that though, is there? But do my cookies and my cakes come my house is a red clay dust bowl. Not much you can do about that. There's nothing I can do about that. But we breathe that. Our house is full of it. My house is a red clay dust bowl. And gee, there's nothing I can do about that. We breathe that. Our house is full of it. I've had a dirt road. And gee, that's great. That is a dirt road. I'm talking, and that's a dirt road. I want to know if there's going to be any Holmes Road problems. That is a dirt road with the dust in that. And I want to know if there's going to be any. I would appreciate it with the dust
I guess
in
I
that.
cannot speak to that, but
I understand
I would expect that
addressed.
there would be dust control in
I
place
would
if there is that
appreciate
amount of
it.
trucks. I guess I cannot speak to
Okay,
that,
thank
but
you.
I
I
would.
understand
I
that.
would expect that there would be dust
Okay,
control in
Bill.
place if there is that amount of trucks. I would hope so.
Okay, thank you.
The highway
Okay,
department discussed
Bill.
this yesterday, the committee, and the committee unanimously, the highway department discussed this yesterday, the committee.
I just got one
And
thing
the
to say
committee
about this before we
unanimously
get any further.
back signing this.
This really is a no-brainer. I just got one. If we don't sign this agreement, they're going to use the roads anyway. Further, they're not going to give us a dime to put them back like they were. This really is a no-brainer. The money's there. If we don't sign this agreement, they're going to use the roads anyway. They're not going to give us a dime to put them back like they were. If we sign this agreement, the money's there. So there's not that much to think about.
Thank you,
I agree we're better off signing it than not signing it. And if there is road damage, I'd really encourage you to see if the road bed has been damaged. Because I agree we're better off signing it than not signing it. And don't fix the road bed. And if there is road damage, I'd really encourage you to see if the road bed has been damaged. Because if all they do is resurface it and don't fix the road bed, then you've got a cosmetic fix, not a permanent fix.
Here, I want to give you an example of what we're talking about. When the 2016 flood came in the central part of the county, like through the town of Marengo, here, I want to give you an example of what we're talking about. When the 2016 flood came in the central part of the county, the roads that they used, because everything else was shut down, that were damaged from the flood. The town of Marengo is fixing what didn't get fixed on the roads damaged from the flood. Is there any funding for that? Absolutely not. Today, the town of Marengo is fixing Feeney Road, which was damaged from the flood. Is there any funding for that? Absolutely not. We're paying the whole gravel, and they wrecked the road, redesigning the road because it took these huge National Guard trucks road use agreement, and they wrecked the road, and now we are responsible for paying this. So I would ask you to please sign this road
Elizabeth Brannick, can I say something?
Funding for
Go ahead.
Thank you.
It does say in our letter from Clark that Enbridge does not repair the roads. They just write a check to us, to the township in the county, from and Clark, they put money into the road fund does not repair the roads. If they just write a check to us, is that true or not? In the county, and they put money into the road fund to repair the road if they are damaged. Is that true or not?
Road crews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they
And I'm in support of this
past
agreement
fall, there was
also.
a truck
Thank you.
that went around and they don't have road crews and stuff like that. So they basically, this past fall, there was a truck that went around and it raided all the roads, towns, all the counties around here. And then what will happen is they'll do the same thing when they're done with construction, and then there'll be an analysis of what they went through all the towns and counties around here. And then what will happen is they'll do the same thing when they're done with construction, and then there'll be an analysis of what the damage is done, and then they'll write us a check for
Any
that.
other comments before you vote on this?
And Laura has her
This
hand.
is Supervisor Negro. I just had a question yet about the Douglas County thing and the jurisdiction where we have to take the this is Supervisor Negro. I just had a question yet about the Douglas County thing and the jurisdiction where if we do have to take them to court. Did anybody check on that? Is this just because they have an office there or something?
What happens is when you have, contracts that go between multiple districts. We check with Corp Counsel on that, and he's fine with that. What happens is when you have, they basically put it in front of a court, go between multiple districts, experience this line, they basically put it in front of a court that has, in this case, we're in experience. Corp Counsel's in favor of that. If there was some training to this agreement with and litigate these issues. In this case, we're in Douglas County. Corp Counsel's in favor of that. Save us money by not having to put on a trial here in Ashland County. This road agreement, it would be litigated in Douglas County, and therefore it'd save us money by not having to put on a trial here in Ashland County. And Corp Counsel's in favor of it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the road agreement with Enbridge. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the road agreement with Enbridge. Those opposed? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Number 11, county referendum for the April 6, 2020 election to exceed. Motion carries. Thank you. Limits. Clark. Number 11, county referendum for the April 6, 2020 election.
Little 5-minute break. I anticipate that this issue is going to take us quite some period. I guess the question is, do we want to just take a short little 5-minute break? I anticipate that this issue is going to take us quite some period, and I think it might be beneficial to take a break now versus in the middle of the discussion. 5-minute break. Are you in favor of that, Chair?
That's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Let's take a
5 minutes.
5-minute break.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, all right, thank you. We're just notified that the light wasn't there, so. All right, well, that's how it goes. Those of you who are just joining this on a recording on YouTube, we were just talking about the financial situation in the county. So I'll just continue with this. You can read the packet that's in the Google Docs to catch up to this point as we're going through here. Where was I? Healthcare, right? Internal loan of $1.4 million, which we'd have to pay back one way or the other. we should budget for around $250,000 a year to put back into the general fund. In round numbers, we need a little less than $1 million a year to stabilize the county budget for the next 5 years. That's if you want to maintain the services that you have. I understand there's no good time to raise taxes, but the fundamental element of what citizens want for services, what the state mandates us to provide, and the local revenue to pay for them are misaligned. County board members are elected to make hard choices that will not please everyone, but they have an obligation and a duty to oversee the county in such a fashion that it functions as an arm of the state of Wisconsin. I am sure citizens prefer not to pay any taxes, but that's not an option. The price of living in a free country, democracy, is taxes. Without taxes, our country would cease to exist. Deciding not to support a referendum is a choice which will lead the county not being able to pay bills or payroll. Cutting staff positions naturally will be looked at, but we don't have the option not to provide mandated services and staff to support those mandated services. In discussion with department heads, we're looking for staff positions that are not mandated or support mandated services. There are also political forces at play if we want to balance the budget by cutting or eliminating all outside and non-mandated contributions. And a couple things were talked about today, the fair, the extension, Meals on Wheels, those are types of things which we give funds to. If we're to eliminate the extension services and Office on Aging, that would save $400,000 a year, which would help the immediate need, but not stabilize a long-term county budget. The board in November meeting had the choice to decrease funding for non-mandated services, and they chose not to reduce funding for those outside agencies. By voting not to support this referendum, the board is voting to eliminate outside not mandated contributions, decrease public safety, decrease road maintenance, decrease health and services, preventative services. The board choice is a hard one to make, which has been put aside for many years. On the average home in Ashland, the value of $113,000, and that's property, so that includes farms and commercials and everything else. This would increase the property tax bill by about $87 a year, $7 per month. This would apply to all property in Ashland County that pay property taxes. Question for the board is, are the services and community contributions worth $87 or $7 a month? Which would the board prefer? Attached, you will find the mandated services, which we have no choice in providing, which staff are still working on to put in the state stats for your reading. We've also included the downward trend in fund balance in our investment report. I've also included outside contributions, which the board did not support increasing revenue, would have to be eliminated. The process is spelled out in the state language. The referendum has to follow this language, and we'll be having an election anyway on April 6th. And so I have I guess part of it is I have a couple things in line here. We can go through basically at the end of 19, we had $6,000 net in cash. After we accounted for things, I have the trend analysis, I have the green book, I have our auditors lined up to speak, and I have our department heads lined up to speak. But during the break, there was a couple county board members were discussing that they would rather just maybe forward this to the citizens without spending another hour and a half going through the justification on that. Dick. Yeah, so if somebody if you wanted to skip that whole process, we would just seek a motion to approve resolution 01-2021-1375, a referendum to exceed the county levy limits law by $938,638 in the April 21 election for a period of 5 years, starting in 21 payable in 2022.
This is Board Supervisor Murdock. I would make that motion to put this to a referendum.
Just speak up a little bit, Gary. I can't hardly hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to eat it. Board Supervisor Murdock, I would make a motion to approve pushing this to the referendum in April for the voters to decide.
This is Supervisor Negro. I'll second that.
You can give it to Laura. It's okay with me.
Okay, I have a comment.
And now discussion, yes.
Okay. And I beg for forgiveness because I don't want any other board supervisor to think I'm stealing their thunder, but I have a reason for wanting this to go to the voters. Let the voters of this county decide one way or another. I just hope that we use this interim period between now and April to look at the budget in depth with the administration and the department heads starting in case it doesn't pass, so that we have some start on this, because we need to prove to the taxpayers that we're going to be ready if it goes down. Even if it passes, we're still going to have to make some adjustments. So when the vote comes, I'm going to vote to, I made the motion and I will vote to push this to the taxpayers because I really do believe that's where it belongs. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points here is, for those online, the county voted down a referendum in 2018 and it didn't really change an awful lot. You didn't see a lot of services cut, but that's because you use cash. You continued to use cash. And the auditors on the line, the auditors which are on the line, they will state, we're out of cash. I mean, literally this won't happen because we cannot not make changes if this doesn't pass, because we literally will not make payroll and pay our bills if this doesn't work. So, I think that maybe was a miss in 2018 to say you have to do this and then not do anything. But in this case, you've already taken out a credit card to pay another credit card, and it doesn't make any sense to do a third credit card.
Chris?
I too am in favor of putting this before the taxpayers and let them vote on it. I would rather do that than to impose a tax such as the wheel tax or something like that without giving them any input. One of the reasons that a referendum didn't pass a couple of years ago was because we got backlash from the Ashland School District when they passed their building referendum. And the school board presented the information that said that if you pass this, your taxes are going to go up by X amount of dollars. What happened was people's taxes went up considerably more than they were told they were going to go up. Now, your information, Clark, that you put out on this, I compared it with my tax bill. You said that the average home is assessed at $113,000, and that would result in an increase of $87. I have my current tax bill in front of me. My property is assessed at $94,200, so almost $20,000 less than the average home is assessed for in Ashland County, about 83% of the average. So I would assume that my taxes would go down, would go up by about 83% of that $87. Well, I took my county taxes on my tax bill and increased them by 14%. They're going to go up $96.72 based on 14%. So I think we better look at those numbers and make sure we're giving the taxpayers the right numbers.
Yeah, so one of the issues is when you're looking at a percentage versus a dollar amount, this is a fluid issue. So if you might remember the passing of this year's budget, we increased the general levy by whatever the levy limit laws allowed us to do, which was very nominal, maybe $20,000 or something like that, not counting debt levy. But on the general levy, the per thousand rate actually decreased, even though we increased taxes, because it spread out over the equalized value of the homes. And so that's why it went, the general levy rate actually went down for this year, but we still collected more money. So yeah, so 14% is a tough thing to nail down. The state doesn't care about percentages. The state doesn't pay attention to percentages. The state actually just pays attention to a dollar amount, a fixed dollar amount is what they do. And so it is a fluid amount, or it does change. Laura?
I have had feedback on this already. I have people in my district that are for funding and continuing to fund not only our county services that are mandated, but also the aging unit, the BART, UW Extension, the fair, things like that. I have heard feedback from that, and I'm glad. The one article I did get interviewed for, I did tell people they should be holding us responsible and holding our feet to the fire in this. So I agree with Clarence's making sure we have the numbers right. I also, if we do vote to put this on a referendum and for a vote, I am also going to hold some listening sessions on Zoom. There has to be us as the sellers of this. We should be telling the people what will happen if these things get cut. Their lives are going to be affected. And I understand we didn't do the wheel tax. I honestly, besides hitting a couple different populations on that, I saw it as, trying to put a Kleenex on a gunshot. This is a longer term plan. We still have details to work out, but we need to keep going through everything. Third, we have to still go through and see if there's any services we can combine. And we still need to see if there's any other way to pull in some funding, whether it's like the credits on the forest that we have or whatever. I myself are looking through things like that, and I know Clark has been very diligent with this stuff. We did ask in finance to hold the budget, and he and the department sat down and they did what they could. We don't have a lot of leeway right now. Our long-term plan needs to be laid out a heck of a lot better. And like Clarence said, it needs to be explained a heck to the people so we know. I mean, everybody likes to have their receipt. This much goes to this much goes to this. People use these services. Businesses rely on BART. I know myself, I call Extension a whole bunch of times. And as Kathy said, I have a title to defend for the county fair. And the kids need to have those projects. I had projects in the county fair all the time. I'm not against any of these outside things. It's just if push comes to shove, there's some really uncomfortable things we'll have to do. So we need to be the 21 people that go out there and be the face of this and explain to people and hear their backlash and their upsettedness. We're all in a bad time with COVID and job consistency and just mental health issues being, it has been one whole year of cabin fever. We need to be the ones that are held to it, and we need to be the ones that are out there selling it. So I thank the departments for doing the work and finding what things that they would have to let go and letting us know what kind of services and goals that they have, because these all affect everyone, and that's what we need to show them. Thank you.
Pat?
Let me start by responding to what Supervisor Campbell said. And I did a similar calculation, the general levy proposal is to increase by 14%, but what's on your tax bill is general levy plus debt levy. And so if you weight that according to the breakout of general levy and debt levy in our most recent tax bill, when I did that calculation, it came out pretty close. But as the administrator said, it depends on the changes that occur with the assessments in the coming year too. But it was in the ballpark of that when I considered the debt levy. I had spoken to the administrator and been emailing him regarding the referendum. I do agree the county should have a referendum, and I will support a referendum. I'll say some things and we'll see if there's any interest in the thoughts that I have on this. When the referendum in 2018 was held, as the administrator said, there was still capacity to move things to the debt levy. There's still money in the bank. Those things are completely tapped out. There's no capacity to do that. When I ran last year and talked to people, the issue I talked to about was taxes, and Other than a couple of people who put health and human services concerns first, everybody else was concerned about the taxes, and they were quite livid about the fact that their taxes went up even though they voted no on the referendum. I have some concern that the voters will actually trust the county to do what it says when a referendum is held. And I think that makes it a little harder to pass than it might otherwise be. And I think, as the administrator said, it really has to be communicated to the county, to the people, that this time these cuts really are going to occur. And we're not sure what they're going to look like for sure yet, but there's going to be cuts. You're not going to keep getting the services if this fails. That has to be loud and clear, but it might be a hard sell after 2018. As many of you know, I taught math for a living, and one of the things I learned is I taught at WICC, so, you know, endless word problems. And one of the things about word problems is you put a number into a paragraph and people tend to focus on those numbers. They don't read the words as much. And our choice on a referendum is either something for a limited number of years. The current proposal is 5, but we could also have a referendum where we increase the general levy on an ongoing basis. If we pass it with a limited number of years, in this case 5, then in 5 years, the county's got to come back and say, okay, we're going to need another referendum to pass to keep going. Whatever increase we have now, if it's for 5 years, it expires in 5 years. But also because it's for a limited number of years, that percent is going to be bigger than a percent if it were in an ongoing basis. So if we went and asked the voters for a smaller percent, I'll throw out 5, 6%, I think it's more likely to pass, but we would also then have that built in an ongoing basis. The hard part about anything less than what the administrator is asking for is we would have to make some cuts, you know, anyway, no ifs, ands, and buts, because we would not be asking for enough to fill all of these gaps. And I've looked at how do we fill the gaps if it doesn't pass, and I've looked at how do we fill the gaps if we, say, get 5, 6%. And there's no easy answers. But I know it's harder if this referendum fails. When I look at the data from the 2018 referendum, 42% voted, and I asked the clerk a while back, and she told me that usually 20 to 25% vote. So we got about twice the turnout, and the no vote was 64.4% to a 35.6% vote. So while I would like to see a referendum pass, I have deep concerns that this one will pass as proposed. That 14% is going to jump out. We've had COVID. That's going to be hard on not just individuals, it's going to be hard on business owners. And if it doesn't pass, the cuts are deeper than something more modest that passes. So it's a risk-reward ratio on what we ask. The more we ask, the greater the reward if we get it, but at the same time, the greater the risk if that fails. And my personal feeling is I would rather do a more modest ask that we collectively feel has a reasonable chance of passing, and then a year from now, go from there on what we ask of the voters. But one of the things that's going to have to change with the county on an ongoing basis is when you look at net new construction, the Department of Revenue has it on their website from 2013 to 2020, Ashland County's average about 0.7%. Inflation over that same period of time is about 11%. So our net new construction with compounding is 5.33% over those 8 years inclusive, and inflation is nearly 11%. We're going to have have referendums that pass every 3, 4, 5 years just to keep up with inflation. And of course, that's not enough with mandated services that are more expensive. So I also think we have to build trust with the voters that what we are asking for, we really need, and then we stick to it. And then the administrator, he mentioned this morning about the highway money, and that's a concern for a couple of reasons, one of which is not there as we thought, but also if we want to fund road projects, we have to consider what the debt levy is. And this is going to tie back to what Mr. Campbell was talking about. The 14% is on the general levy, but if we increase the debt levy between the $1.5 million in the current budget, that would increase the overall tax bill. So if we did run the debt levy up to, you know, $2.25 million, that overall tax bill is going to be more than that 14%. And I think the reaction to voters would be, not only would be angry, but I think anything in the future from that trust perspective of what I voted for is what I'm getting would be even more difficult. So those are my thoughts after some time on this.
Bill, you're first.
You know, I think it's important to realize that the county's share in your tax bill is probably around 20%. You got the school, the local district, and the vocational school. So just because the county might go up, let's say you throw a figure out there, when the school gets less state aid or has decrease in enrollment or additional expenses, everything gets driven up. So it's not just the county's $87 or something that it's going to increase. That's only like 20%. I got about 3 or 4 phone calls. I'm the assessor for the town of Ashland, and I got 3 or 4 phone calls about how much their taxes went up. People called me, and one person said, my taxes went up $500 and some. Well, it wasn't just the county, it was the school and the vocational school and, you know, the local tax. So I think we got to realize that too. If you tell them that their taxes are going to go up so much, and when they get their tax bill, everything else goes up, and then they blame the county. And like you said, if you lose the people's trust, they're not going to vote for it ever again. And I think that's what happened to the school. The other districts went up also. So I'm in favor of letting the people decide if they feel it's necessary, and I see it's necessary, then let the people decide. Thank you.
Pat?
I actually got my first call on this before I even got the packet. You know, somebody had heard and called and wanted to know what was going on. I had one other call since then. I've had several personal contacts, though, as I'm out and about, people coming up and asking, quite frankly, what the heck are you doing? And reminding me that, you know, that's not the only tax they pay. One of the points, just to echo what Bill said, is one gentleman, and he's not in my district, but he is a county resident, said, you know, my school taxes for my area went up $385 this year. And, you know, you're going to tack another 85 on there. And I get it. I'm in the same boat. I mean, that's $85. Is it going to kill me? No, it's not going to kill me, but it does stop me from doing other things I want to do with that $85. Like, you know, one of the good things about COVID perhaps is I'm saving some money on eating out, not having that opportunity. Doing things like that. So maybe this year, if I had to pay more taxes, it would be the year to do it. But we all know it doesn't end. And, you know, we can say that we're going to put a sunset on it for 5 years, but we all know at the end of 5 years, we're either going to renew that or we're going to figure something else out. Been to enough meetings on taxes where, well, let's just borrow a little more money because the interest is so cheap. You know, where I'm going with all this is I don't see a hope in Hades of, you know, this passing. You know, I'm fine with it being on a referendum. But personally, I don't support it. And I know where we're at in the county, and what we need to do is we need to clearly have in this packet that goes forward when you do your referendum, what is not going to happen if we don't get this money. It should be spelled out clearly, because one of the points I had driven home as I was listening to somebody, you know, chewing on my ear about this is, you know, don't tell me you're going to cut the football team, you know, and that's what it looks like. What I mean by that is don't pick popular things that people like and say, we're going to cut this if, you know, we don't get that money. What we should do is we should be accurate and honest about what this truly means. And without this money, these are the programs that are going to be cut, and here's how they're going to be cut. And that should come through committees so that, you know, we never all agree on anything. So it's back to the majority rule so that it comes through this group and we all have an understanding that whether we like it or not, majority agrees that this is where the cuts are going to be. So at the end of the day, those same wallets pay for these taxes, whether it's the school, the tech, the county, the town, the city, and, you know, they keep going up, and we've got to hold the line somewhere on there, or start cutting services. And we truly haven't cut a lot of services, and we've been lucky that way. But I think the time has come that we gotta develop that list of what's going to cut and stick to it.
Yeah, and I have, like I said, from the presentation today, I anticipated, and I requested all the department heads to be here to talk specifically, to come up with saying, this is what would cut if this doesn't pass. So every department head is either here in person or online. In addition, I have the auditors, which basically would reinforce to say, you know, this is serious enough, you are going to run out of cash, and you'll be the first county in the state to run out of cash if we don't change something. And regardless, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to raise debt levy somehow because we took all these loans out. We're gonna have to take out bank loans to pay back the funds just to make payroll, regardless of what we do. I'm at a loss to figure out where we would be, but I think it's important. I think Matt's point is spot on. The sheriff basically would say, we're gonna have one deputy on staff at all times. And that's what we would do. And the citizens may say, if there's a domestic 60 miles away, well, that will take an hour for us to get to. But that's one of the things we'd have to do. We wouldn't mow the side ditches for county roads, probably increase deer hits, but that would save us money. We would basically not have staff to do permits on a timely basis. We might have to close the clerk's office, 2 days a week because we don't have staff to cover the hours for that. So these are all things, Matt, exactly. We would just say, here's the list of things so the citizens know it's gonna have to happen. My question for you is, do we want to do that today with the board and start talking about with all the department heads here ready to talk about this? Or would you rather wait for another day for us to develop that and put that into a packet in writing so you can review it ahead of time? Or we just take a vote and get done with this. If somebody wants to call the question, we can be done and just move on.
Chairman, can I be recognized?
Go ahead.
This is Supervisor Quebec, and I'm very interested in all this information. But I agree with the other speakers that it's really not the call of the county board at this point. It's the people who we serve, and I really like the idea of hosting listening sessions or some kind of session where we can provide this information to our constituents so that they're more well informed. I've been getting a lot of random questions from people like, so the county's now going to be building a jail, and that's one of the rumors in the rumor mill. And I don't think that that's true at all, and that these funds that would be raised would not be raised for any capital projects, but it's just to fund ongoing operations. And I really think it's imperative that we get out ahead of the rumor mill and provide people with good information about what's actually going on. So I'm certainly willing to to continue with this meeting and listen to the department heads, and very much appreciate the work that they are putting in to to think through the consequences of whatever vote happens. But I would I don't I think our audience is larger than the county board at this point, and figuring out how we can effectively reach them is going to be very important. This stuff is confusing. It's very confusing for me. I appreciate Supervisor Kinney in kind of walking through some of the differences between these various types of revenue mechanisms, and I'm probably gonna try to give him a call and see if he can give me a quick tutorial in all this, because I feel woefully inadequate, frankly, in making these kinds of decisions, because it's just I don't have the background or experience in this. So I'm going to be doing my best to play catch up, because I think it's important. This is not just I don't think we can throw our hands up and say the voters are going to decide this. As supervisors who serve on the county board, leadership is service, and it's our responsibility to educate ourselves about these things, and then make sure that when the voters go to the polls, when the people in this community who trust us and who voted for us go to the polls, we have a responsibility to make sure they know what they're voting for. And, certainly I don't think it's appropriate for us to threaten them to take away their favorite things. But, I think it's very important for people to know that the consequences of all this. There were changes that the last governor's administration put through to lead to this situation. And I think that's also something that we need to think through and explore, and make sure that our representatives also understand that they're putting our community in an untenable situation, because we cannot have a situation where, people are dying of roadkill deer situations and there's no ambulance service. I mean, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at turning into Alabama or some kind of third world country. And so, this is, I think we as supervisors have a duty to provide our constituents with good information and to educate ourselves and to be able to provide that education to people. But we also have a duty to speak up to, the state and federal governments that are really leaving rural communities in the lurch. That's all I have to say, and I support this, putting this on the agenda.
Kathy?
After listening to all the very important information we have got here today, I would like to call the question.
Now what is the motion that's on the table?
So the motion on the table is basically just to approve the referendum as written. Basically, it would be moved to approve referendum resolution R01-2021-1375, a referendum to exceed the county levy limit laws by $938,638 in the April 2020 election for a period of 5 years starting in 2021, payable 2022. So basically just, that the motion was made and seconded. And in this case, if you call the question, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to vote on calling the question.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
I'm learning. I'm catching up on this. So your first aspect is to say, basically, all in favor of calling the question, and then if it's a questionable vote, you can do a roll call. But if it's a unanimous vote, then you can just go with calling the question.
All those in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
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 Hang on.
Wait a minute.
I thought there was something going on.
The motion to call the question needs a second.
Supervisor Ortman, second.
It does? Okay. Pepe seconded it. Okay, now you can vote.
Aye.
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 Wait a minute. Let's go back to the beginning here. All those in favor of approving this referendum?
Wait.
Call the question.
First.
Those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Those people that are in favor of passing this resolution and sending it on to the taxpayers, say aye.
Aye.
Point of order.
Shouldn't we roll call?
Yeah, I think because is this a money? Because it's over a certain amount of money, it's got to be a roll call.
So there's been a request for a roll call vote on this. So County Clerk, please call roll call vote on resolution 1375.
Hufall,
No.
Sendor. Sendor. Berlin,
Yes.
Corpola,
No.
Mecca, VTech,
Yes.
Huber,
Yes.
Hennenin,
She left, had to go to work.
Shudi,
Yes.
Smirtig,
Yes.
Negro,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
No.
Quebec,
Yes.
Messinger,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Kabasa,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Ortman,
Yes.
Brannick,
Yes.
14 yes, 3 no.
14 yes and what no?
3.
Okay. So at this point, I will say thank you for the auditors for being on the line for questions. We will we'll probably convene with you questions later, and thank you for the department heads for being online. We will get a path together to come up with something that we put in writing for county board consideration and for more or less citizen participation and engagement on this issue. Thank you very much for that.
Administrative updates.
Okay, updates. We have, I have an update on the Pearl case. So we basically are getting into the discovery portion of the Pearl case. And that means different people are going to be deposed and gathering evidence. The trial has been set, the end result of this. So there are motions and there's hearings all happen. The end result is the trial has been set for late March of 2022. So a little over 15 months from now. There's really no involvement with Corp Counsel on this, or county staff, or for that matter, county board. This is the litigation is carried out and defended by our insurance carrier, who does our liability insurance. And so, but this is just an informative issue for the county board to be aware of that will happen. If there is a settlement at some point, and it's over a certain dollar amount, the county board will be asked to weigh in on that with our insurance carrier on that. So we will go into executive session if that happens. We're working on the ordinances for the county. As you're well aware from our website, the ordinances are just on the website listed by year. It's quite the hunt and peck method if you want to look for an ordinance, because there's no codification. It's not by title and verse and chapter. And so Lori's working on gathering all the ordinances going back as far as we realistically think we want to do. And then we're looking at coordinating with Corp Counsel to get an intern to basically go through each ordinance and then put the numbers on them. So basically put on chapters and verse and titles. So when we get done with this thing, it will be very accessible. You'll see land use, you'll see recreation, you'll see septics, you'll see health and human services ordinance, you'll see all these different ordinances that we have, and people will be able to find them. I'm very excited to work on this project over the next 6 to 8 months, and the end result on this is we will eventually come back with a code of ordinances, a book of ordinances that you will hopefully approve, that will basically rescind any previous ordinance going back to the beginning of time, and then these will only be the ones that were there. So over the next few years, if we end up with holes, you say there's an ordinance from 1915 that we weren't aware of concerning railroad tracks or something, we would obviously have to bring that back to the board on a one-to-one basis. So, but we'll do probably a good 95% of what we have. I'm working on a cemetery MOU with the Hope Cemetery for mass casualty events with Bayfield County. So we're putting together a mass fatality event. So if a school shooting happened and you had 30 bodies, where would you put those 30 bodies? And so we're working to basically take that building that's just off of Sanborn there on the east side of the road, big old brick building, stone, and we basically would put some electricity in there so we could cool it in the summer and then heat it in the winter if we had a mass casualty event. A church blows up by a gas explosion or something like that. So I'm working on that with Bayfield County. Department of Justice, we were awarded a $58,000 grant from the Department of Justice to work with COVID-related mitigation issues in the court and the sheriff's office. So we're going forward with a $25,000 or so ionizing air handling unit for the jail. And this will be a long-term investment in the jail. It basically kills germs as they go through the air handling system. And so we would hope in the long term, we would actually even see less, after COVID is gone, less respiratory diseases and colds going through the system. So I'm very excited about that, along with multiple different UV light cleaners and other systems to help. And we're also doing remote checking in for people in drug court. So we're using some of this money so we don't have to have people traipsing through all the time. We're doing remote checking in to make sure that they're following court mandates to be monitored for drug court instead of traipsing through the courthouse all the time. Healthcare study, as mentioned in the write-up, we basically have this healthcare study. I'm going through a broker. In addition, we're emulating and laying over some of the data from the city plan to see what would that look like onto the county plan. We, because of this self-insurance, we have reinsurance at $65,000. I look at all the claims. I was informed we have a high cost claim of over $700,000 that is yet to hit us. And so that will be that'll hurt us on the experience level when we put it on RFP for private healthcare. But my gut feeling, because the county has done such a poor job of managing the self-funded healthcare, my gut guess is I think we should go to a fully insured plan. And this will come because, it's like having an alcoholic in your house and keeping booze around. It's just not a good thing to do, and it basically limits, the availability to just go negative and not have the repercussions for it. You have to pay the rates, what the rates are. And I just think going forward, I'd like to put the county in more stable footing that way. Regardless, it's going to have to increase. If we basically stay with self-insurance, we got to drop $300,000 to $350,000 increase to that every year. And if we go to a fully funded plan, I'm thinking maybe it might only be a couple $100,000 more a year, but we're going to have to pay $300,000 to get away from the self-insurance. Those of you who have been divorced, it's kind of like when you get to that point and you figure out, man, it's going to cost a lot of money to get away from this girl. Sometimes you may not, maybe you like her a little bit more, so that's kind of the analogy I use for that. Cooperators meeting, we continue with those on every Wednesday for the 3 counties and 2 tribes. Vaccines, we're working with the 1A, and I did send out some information to those of you who have county email addresses the other day concerning what our public health department is pushing out on that. We're looking at vaccinating from the county aspect. We're looking at public health staff. We're also looking at vaccinating the highway staff to make sure that if there is a snowstorm, we have enough plow drivers for EMS. So that's one of the things. And then we're obviously pushing the correctional officers, which are inside this jail with that. So those are all kind of our top tier from county employers. The hospitals, pharmacies, and nursing homes, they're basically doing their vaccinations. So from the county, we don't have to do that. Eventually, when we get through 1B and 1C, there'll be general population. We're going to be doing at-risk people over 65 with health issues. At that point, we're going to have to look at hopefully by that point, the weather will be warmer and we can do clinics. One of the issues when we're doing these vaccination clinics for COVID is you just can't give a shot to somebody and send them on their way. As you're well aware, there's a small chance, super small chance, that somebody's going to have an adverse reaction and an allergic reaction to this, in which case you have to be there to respond to that. So the timelines are 12 to 15 minutes. That person has to sit there in that office. We're looking at doing, with space limitations in COVID, the space we currently have, we're only doing maybe, a half dozen people an hour in that space because of this issue. But so if we get enough vaccine for mass vaccination clinics for the regular citizens, we're gonna have to figure out what to do with those 15-minute intervals. So, and we're working together with the tribes and the counties to figure that out. The tribes are vaccinating their own right now. So they are getting their own separate supply of vaccine from the Indian Health Bureau. Working with CJC to deal with diversionary issues in criminal justice, which is, again, trying to lessen the contact with people in jail. And I would encourage, I'm gonna put that meeting up on the website or on our YouTube channel later on today or tomorrow. I would encourage you to look at that because we have a whole mess of people together trying to figure out how to divert people from going to jail, because nobody's life gets better once they visit jail. And they lose jobs, they lose housing, they lose relationships, and if we can help with that, that's in the best interest of the county. I think that's all the updates probably germane for today. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Next we'll go to E, County Board Supervisor reports. Anybody have any reports? Probably not. We haven't had any meetings. Well, hearing none, we'll move right along.
Wait, Laura held her hand up.
Don't giggle at me, Dick. I know you want to get going. I just want to say that I've attended a few of the UW Extension's restorative justice summits, which is also kind of dovetails in with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council looking for those alternatives to incarceration, things we can do. It also works with me being on public property and law enforcement, making sure that, our jail is most efficient, especially during this COVID crisis. Their wellness court is something to see. You guys should hop on one of the wellness court hearings. There is a great amount of stuff that the judge is doing, and not only just to just make sure people's lives are better. Also with UW, there are some youth mental health first aiders that deals with mental health first aid training, helps people deal with people who have mental illness. There's also one for adult mental health first aid training. Those are coming up, and there's it looks like 5 different times that we could attend each one of these. It's just good dealing with the population, and it's also good. I would encourage each department to look into this. Gives us one more skill set to be able to help people get the services that they need out of our departments, and also if they need some kind of mental health assistance. So that's it.
Anybody else? Just a reminder to drop, if you have your vouchers ready, you can put them up here on the table. I'm going down to the office right after I leave here, or you can turn them in yourself, but we have to have the vouchers turned in.
And then for packets, a couple people had said they didn't receive their packets, or they want packets if they're getting an email. So if you're having issues with your packets, reach out to the county clerk's office about that. Supervisor reports.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Pepe made a motion to adjourn. Mike Berlin seconded it. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed that wants to stay longer, say no. Thank you, we're adjourned.
Happy New Year, everyone. Nice to see you
Same to
all.
you.
Recording.